Chapter 4174. The Same Race. After Qi Jian said that, Nie Tian was stunned for a good few seconds before he reacted and was extremely shocked. Even if he cracked his scalp, he would never have imagined that the angel race and the dragon race were actually of the same bloodline. The angel race was born handsome and noble, their bloodline blessed by heaven, and they were hailed as a holy race. As for the dragon race, they were born powerful, possessing two forms, human form and dragon form, and were hailed as a race of strength. These two races were actually of the same bloodline. It was truly too inconceivable. Ancestor, is what you said true? After a moment, Nie Tian calmed down a little, but he still asked somewhat disbelievingly. Yes. Qi Jian nodded solemnly and said, a long time ago, perhaps before heaven and earth were split open, there was a strange vortex in the chaotic void. It drifted in the void, and after countless years of tempering and impact, it finally gave birth to two lives. They were the angel race and the dragon race's ancestors. The angel race's ancestors, the dragon race's ancestors, and the dragon race's ancestors. The angel ancestor and dragon ancestor should have originally been brothers of the same bloodline, but in order to compete for the resources and power in the vortex, they did not hesitate to fight. After an unknown amount of time, in the ceaseless battle between the angel ancestor and dragon ancestor, the power in the vortex became thinner and thinner. Finally, one day, it was unable to withstand the two's oppression and collapsed in the void with a loud bang. However, the angel ancestor and dragon ancestor's battle did not stop because of this. The two fought for who knows how many years, and in the end, they were both exhausted. Therefore, they started to reproduce their own bloodlines, hoping that their descendants could be stronger than the other's descendants. But unfortunately, after the angel ancestor and dragon ancestor perished, their descendants gradually forgot the hatred between their ancestors and became their own independent races, reproducing until today. As soon as he finished speaking, Qi Jian let out a deep sigh, and he actually felt a sense of loss and sorrow. Nie Tian was deeply shocked, and could not recover for a long time. What Qi Jian said did not sound like history, but more like myths and legends. Perhaps in an infinitely distant era, many legendary powerhouses had once appeared in this world. This is a distant legend between the angel race and the dragon race. For the current people of the two races, they are more willing to believe that this is really just a legend. Qi Jian frowned and sighed again. The angel race and the dragon race are more willing to live on without any relation to each other. Ancestor, you just said that the angel race and the dragon race cannot escape their fate. What do you mean? Nie Tian was much calmer and asked solemnly. Although the angel race and the dragon race are of the same origin, they have always been fighting and always divided, and have never truly been like the same race. Although the angel race and the dragon race are of the same origin, they have always been fighting, and has always been divided, they have never truly been like one. Ancestor, Qi Jian's brows furrowed, and could not help but become slightly interested. The dragon race and the angel race both have fatal flaws in their bloodlines. Only when the two races merge and create a new bloodline can the flaws in their bloodlines be eliminated. Qi Jian nodded solemnly with a serious expression. In his opinion, the angel race and the dragon race were races that far surpassed ordinary humans. Their bloodlines were top and far stronger than ordinary people. In his opinion, the angel race and the dragon race were races that far surpassed ordinary humans. Their bloodlines were top-notch and far more powerful than ordinary humans. In his opinion, the angel race and the dragon race were races that far surpassed ordinary humans. Their bloodlines were top and far stronger than ordinary people. It was inconceivable that such a powerful bloodline had a defect. Yes. Qi Jian nodded and said, in reality, it is very difficult for ordinary people to detect the defect in the bloodline. Only an extremely small number of people with extraordinary talent can detect this when their cultivation reaches the peak. In the legends, Demon god Qi and the dragon race's taboo are special people who have eliminated the defect in their bloodline. That is why their strength can reach heights that ordinary people cannot reach. Nie Tian's brows furrowed as if he was in thought. He was not a member of the angel race, nor a member of the dragon race, so he could not understand what the defect in the bloodline was. The dragon reverse soul transformation, 9 out of 10 lives. The 9ly reverse soul transformation, eternal damnation. Suddenly, Qi Jian spoke solemnly, his eyes surging with the same light. Hearing Qi Jian's words, Nie Tian's expression changed in shock. These words were exactly what Enai Jiaming and Qi Shinu had said back then. Enai Jiaming was a member of the Dragon Reverse race, Qi Shinu was a member of the Qi clan, the Dragon Reverse race belonged to the Dragon race, and the Qi clan belonged to the Angel race. Did Qi Shinu's life-defying gamble have something to do with bloodline defect? You've heard of this before? Qi Jian was shocked by Nie Tian's reaction and asked with a frown. Yes. Nie Tian nodded and then told him about Enai Jiaming and Qi Shinu. Qi Jian's old face was filled with shock after hearing Nie Tian's story. He had never thought that such a strange thing would happen to Nie Tian. Forefather, Qi Shinu wanted me to merge the dragon reverse soul with the 9ly soul. Is it to resolve the defect in the bloodline? Nie Tian became cold and asked gravely. Yes. Qi Jian nodded and said, the dragon reverse race and the Qi clan have a very special status among the dragon race and angel race. The dragon reverse race was exiled by the dragon race while the Qi clan has always been at the bottom of the angel race. However, both races have had characters that can reverse the fate of the two races. It seems that both Enai Jiaming and Qi Shinu have realized the defect in their bloodline and want to fix it. This is why they made this life-defying gamble. Nie Tian's eyes trembled slightly. The shock in his heart was imaginable. It seemed that Qi Shinu was right. Enai Jiaming's death was part of a deliberate plan. In comparison, Qi Shinu was more direct and honest. He gave the choice to Nie Tian. Forefather, if I merge the 9ly soul with the dragon reverse soul, will the reborn Enai Jiaming and Qi Shinu be very terrifying? Nie Tian became cold asked. Yes. Qi Jian nodded and pondered for a long time before saying, this is a gamble between the two. Only one will survive. If Qi Shinu wins, he will become an existence comparable to demon god Qi. If Enai Jiaming wins, his potential will be comparable to the number 1 taboo of the dragon race. Nie Tian's eyes flickered with astonishment. Enai Jiaming and Qi Shinu were the most talented existences in the dragon reverse race and the Qi clan. They must have realized the defect in their bloodline and thus chose this life-defying gamble. Even though Enai Jiaming hadn't been absolutely honest with Nie Tian still hoped that Enai Jiaming would win in the end. The Qi clan has a special status among the angel race. Their bloodline power is generally on the low side, but once someone with a heaven-defying bloodline appears, they can reach heights that other angel races cannot reach. Qi Jian sighed and said, the Qi clan and the dragon reverse race are existences that are discriminated against by their respective races. However, the result of the competition between the two races is hard to predict. Chapter 4175. Qi Jian looked at Nie Tian and suddenly became excited, as if he had understood something. He said excitedly, Nie Tian, you can do it! You are a heaven's terminator and a dragon shepherd. The heavens allowed you to merge the bloodlines of the angel race and the dragon race. Seeing Qi Jian's excitement, Nie Tian couldn't help but frown. Although he was a heavenly pole and a dragon shepherd, to be exact, he was not a member of the angel tribe or the dragon tribe. If the angel race and the dragon race couldn't do it, how could an outsider like him do it? But Qi Jian was very confident. He seemed to be certain that Nie Tian was the one who could perfectly merge the bloodlines of the two races. Forefather, you just said that no one in the two races has successfully merged the two bloodlines. What about demon god Qi and the first taboo of the dragon race, Emperor Karma Su? Did they not do it? Nie Tian ignored Qi Jian's excitement and asked solemnly. The two of them only eliminated the flaws in their bloodlines. They did not merge the two bloodlines. Qi Jian calmed down a little and said, if someone wins the life-defying bet between Qi Shinu and an eye jamming, then the bloodline fusion can barely be considered a success. Barely? Nie Tian frowned in confusion. Nie Tian, although you have the dragon shepherd energy and the celestial centipede bloodline, you do not understand the power of these two bloodlines. When your strength increases a little more and you have a deeper understanding of the two bloodlines, you will understand what I am saying. Qi Jian smiled faintly and looked at Nie Tian with a burning gaze. The blazing radiance was like a person in despair suddenly seeing hope. Amen. Nie Tian nodded and his expression became serious. After understanding the matters of the angel race and the dragon race, he felt the responsibility on his shoulders had grown heavier. The angel race and the dragon race had been divided for so long. Maybe they really could be united in his hand. Old ancestor, I would still like to take a look at the Emperor's heart ancestor dragon, Nie Tian said as he glanced at the dragon race cultivator on the ground. Alright, I'll go with you. Qi Jian knew that Nie Tian wouldn't give up so easily, and he nodded. Nie Tian smiled faintly and prepared to wake the person on the ground. Out of the way! Right at this moment, Qi Jian exclaimed, and then he took a step forward. Flames surged from his entire body, and in an instant, a flaming shield condensed into form that enveloped him and Nie Tian. Bang! In the next moment, a terrifying sharp blade fell and bombarded the fire shield, directly shattering it and stirring up a wave of fire in the air. Nie Tian's eyes flickered. With a thought, he directly placed the fellow on the ground into the 9 extremities. It was obvious that this killing intent was directed at that fellow. Nie Tian, be careful. They're hiding in the shadows. Qi Jian frowned as he spoke in a low voice. Then, his third eye appeared. In his field of vision, the space around him changed, as if it had been deconstructed. But the next moment, his expression became strange, and he looked a little flustered. Old ancestor, what did you see? Nie Tian couldn't help but ask. I didn't see anything. Qi Jian shook his head with a solemn expression. Indeed, he didn't see anything. This was what surprised him the most. With his perception, even a peak sky martial divine ancestor would find it difficult to hide. But at this moment, he didn't see anything. Without a doubt, the person who attacked was extremely good at hiding. Under normal circumstances, those who were good at hiding were all assassins. To be able to hide under Qi Jian's third eye, he was definitely not an ordinary assassin. Could it be? At this moment, Qi Jian suddenly thought of something, and his expression changed abruptly. What's wrong? Seeing Qi Jian's deep emotions, Nie Tian's heart sank and he asked in shock. To be able to make Qi Jian so shocked, it seemed that this matter wasn't simple. Hidden dragon. Qi Jian furrowed his brows and spat out 2 words. Hidden dragon? Nie Tian was taken aback. He didn't understand what these 2 words meant. Hidden Dragon Clan, a special branch of the Dragon Clan. Qi Jian's expression turned slightly better as he transmitted his voice. Almost all dragon clans rely on strength to win, but the Hidden Dragon Clan's greatest characteristic is that they're good at hiding. They can perfectly merge their body and aura into space, making it extremely difficult to be detected. You're saying that someone from the Dragon Clan wants to kill him? Nie Tian was taken aback. Yes. Qi Jian nodded and said, as far as I know, the Hidden Dragon Clan is a branch of the Dragon Clan that specializes in assassination. However, ordinary hidden dragons can't hide themselves perfectly in front of me. Unless the person who attacked is from the Hidden Dragon Thorn. Hidden Dragon Thorn? Nie Tian's eyes trembled and he was puzzled again. The Hidden Dragon Thorn is an assassin organization established by the Dragon Clan. Most of its members are from the Hidden Dragon Clan, and only a very small number are from other dragon bloodlines. Qi Jian nodded solemnly and said, The hidden dragon thorn has very few people. It's said that there are less than 100 people. So those who can join the hidden dragon thorn are all top-notch hidden dragon martial artists. This person can perfectly hide in front of me, so he must be from the hidden dragon thorn. This. Tion's brows furrowed, and he couldn't help but be stunned. That guy just now didn't have much strength and was a big talker. He didn't look like an important person no matter how he looked at it. In order to kill him, the Dragon Clan actually used the hidden dragon thorn. It was truly a bit strange. In order to kill him, the Dragon Clan actually used the hidden dragon thorn. It was truly a bit strange. The hidden dragon thorn is the Dragon Clan's trump card. Not many people know about it, so under normal circumstances it won't be used at all. Qi Jian also thought of the same question at this time and said solemnly, "Looks like that kid just now should know a very big secret." Yes. Tion nodded solemnly in agreement. Then at this time there were two paths in front of them. One was to hand over that person just now, and the other was to protect that person. "Ancestor, we don't have to waste time with him. Let's leave this place quickly," Tion thought for a moment and said solemnly. He clearly said this to protect that person. Faintly, he had a hunch that the Emperor's heart ancestral dragon's matter this time wasn't simple. Perhaps this person knew something. "All right," Qi Jian agreed. His body shook and he took a step forward. Immediately, a fire shield spread around him, turning into towering waves of fire that raged in all directions. At the same time, he and Tion directly shot into the sky like two sharp swords, piercing the clouds. Roar! But at this time, a deep dragon roar sounded high up in the sky, and then a fire dragon appeared. Its huge body rolled and directly pressed down. Chapter 4176. Boom! The fire dragon swooped down from the sky. The surging flames were like an avalanche that pressed down on Tion and Qi Jian. Tion's eyes narrowed slightly. The heat in the flames was so great that the air was misty. In an instant, Qi Jian raised his palm into the sky, and the force of his palm transformed into a violent gale that forcefully crushed the fire dragon. "An expert!" A shocked voice resounded in the air. That person obviously didn't expect Qi Jian to be so strong. As one of the four ancestors of the Angel Clan, Qi Jian was, of course, very strong. However, among the four ancestors, his strength was only ranked third. His strongest point was his perception. "Leave!" Qi Jian frowned and shouted. A pair of angel wings appeared on his back. With a flap, his speed soared and he wanted to leave. He knew that the hidden dragon thorn was extremely difficult to deal with, so he didn't want to get entangled with it. Moreover, the enemy was in the dark while he was in the light. There was no point in staying. Want to leave? Not so easy. However, the hidden assassin didn't intend to let Qi Jian go. He roared and a thin line of fire appeared in the air. It was extremely fast, like a sharp blade. Qi Jian's third eye suddenly opened and he immediately sensed that something was wrong. His body suddenly stopped in the air. Boom! In the next moment, the line of fire actually exploded, instantly turning into a giant flame net, rolling over. "Good move!" Qi Jian exclaimed. He waved his hand in the air and a ball of fire whizzed out, creating a gap in the flame net. The two were extremely fast and they passed through the gap. Roar! Suddenly, a deep roar came from below. Then, a black dragon soared into the sky. Its sharp claws flickered with black light as if they could tear everything apart. "Hide behind me," Qi Jian said in a low voice. Then, another pair of angel wings appeared on his back. Flames burned and swept through the air. Tion stuck close to Qi Jian's back. Only then did he truly feel the latter's strength. A peak sky martial divine ancestor powerhouse was too terrifying. They really had the ability to turn the world upside down. At this moment, the black dragon rushed over. It waved its giant claws and clawed fiercely. Scram! Qi Jian's wings of flame suddenly unfurled, instantly unleashing 10,000 blades of flame to attack the black dragon. Bang, bang, bang. In the next instant, the flaming blades fell and bombarded the black dragon's body, shattering it into pieces. The black dragon's scales were tough, and it managed to block the flaming blades. However, it was not light either. Many of its scales had been torn off, and blood was flowing out. Qi Jian, on the other hand, suffered an attack from the dragon claw. There was a hole on his clothes, but he was not injured. "Ancestor, are you all right?" Nie Tian was extremely shocked in his heart, as he never imagined that the black dragon would be so terrifying to the point of almost injuring Qi Jian. After all, Qi Jian was a peak expert of the Angel Clan. Even across the entire All-Heaven Saints world, there were not many people who could rival him. The hidden dragon thorn is indeed difficult to deal with. Qi Jian stabilized his figure and his expression became slightly more solemn. Previously, he had only heard of the hidden dragon thorn. He did not expect the people from the Dragon Clan's assassination organization to be so powerful. "People of the Angel Clan, our Dragon Clan has always been at peace with you. You are an expert of the Angel Clan. We do not want to make things difficult for you. As long as you hand over that person just now, we will pretend that nothing happened here." At this moment, the black dragon rolled a few times in the air and quickly turned into a black-clothed cultivator. He looked at Qi Jian from afar and shouted, "I also do not want to make things difficult for you, but I know that person just now. I have some things to ask him, so I cannot hand him over to you," Qi Jian responded coldly with a calm expression. The black-clothed cultivator's expression changed visibly. After a moment of silence, he moved and turned into his black dragon form again. As expected, Qi Jian saw the black-clothed cultivator's reaction and was sure that the person did know a very big secret. Roar! The black dragon soared into the sky, and the dragon's roar shook the sky. Its huge body was like a huge black mountain, carrying with it the billowing might of a dragon. Qi Jian could not help but frown when he felt the oppressive aura coming towards him. However, he was not afraid. The angel wings on his back spread out again, and the flames surged wildly as he charged towards the black dragon. Boom! The black dragon collided with the raging waves of flames, and the world shook. Then, waves of flames rushed out, wreaking havoc in the void. The black dragon forcibly broke through the waves of flames, and its huge claws fell. 3 cold lights appeared, tearing through the void. Qi Jian frowned, and his figure instantly retreated, but he was still a step too late. 3 shallow bloodstains were left on his chest. Boom! At the same time, a flaming blade attacked. It was as fast as a ghost. Qi Jian was caught off guard and was actually hit. His figure retreated hundreds of meters before he could stabilize himself. Qi Jian's old face was gloomy and ugly, but his injuries were not too serious. Nie Tian's eyes trembled. He did not expect these 2 assassins of the hidden dragon thorn to be so terrifying that they could actually injure Qi Jian. However, he could also see that Qi Jian had many scruples when he attacked. Obviously, he did not want to hurt these 2 people. Indeed, Qi Jian did not want to form enmity with the Angel Clan, so when he attacked, he held back. "I have already shown mercy, but you are so aggressive." Qi Jian's eyes darkened and he said coldly, "Since that is the case, then don't blame me for being merciless." As his voice fell, he took a step forward, and 8 pairs of angel wings appeared on his back. Immediately, the aura of flames soared into the sky, as if it wanted to incinerate the world in front of him. Qi Jian was from the Blazing Feather Clan, and his angel blood wings contained extremely strong fire attribute power. And of the 2 assassins he faced, one of them was also a fire attribute martial artist, but his strength was much weaker than his. Roar! The black dragon felt that Qi Jian's aura had become several times stronger, and he could not help but roar, as if he was a little afraid. However, the black dragon did not retreat. Instead, he rolled and rushed over bravely. "You are courting death." Qi Jian's face was full of murderous intent, and he spoke in a low voice. The 8 pairs of angel wings on his back moved in unison, and suddenly flames soared into the sky. Endless waves of flames gathered, condensing into a spear of flames, and suddenly moved to attack the black dragon. Bang! In the next instant, the spear of flames fell, and the void exploded with a piercing sound. The black dragon was actually directly pierced through. Roar! The black dragon howled at the sky in pain, and then his body became sluggish, and he began to fall down. And at this moment, a crimson dragon appeared, and it soared into the sky, using its body to carry the black dragon. The black dragon quickly returned to human form, and he fainted on the crimson dragon's body. Whether he was dead or alive was unknown. The crimson dragon glared fiercely at Qi Jian, and then his body moved, and he quickly left. People of the Angel Clan, the hidden dragon Thorn will not let this matter rest. The crimson dragon's figure quickly disappeared, but her angry voice came from the void, and it was an extremely shrill female voice. Chapter 4177. Qi Jian looked at the void in the distance with a heavy heart. He didn't use his full strength in the attack just now, but it still caused heavy damage to the black dragon. He hoped that the latter wouldn't die. Ancestor, let's leave this place first, Nie Tian said with a slight nod. Qi Jian agreed. The two didn't delay and immediately left 5 Direction City. Half a day later, the two were already 1,000 miles away. They were only relieved when they were sure that no one was following them. That guy should wake up by now. We need to have a good talk with him. Qi Jian's footsteps slowed down and he faintly smiled. I hope that kid knows something valuable, otherwise, we'll suffer a great loss. Nie Tian entered the 9 Extremes and saw that the guy was still unconscious. He first checked on Rui Qianyu's condition. Rui Qianyu was still in the state of awakening the 10 Annihilation Evil Woman. Her progress was much slower than Nie Tian expected. At the same time, Nie Tian also checked on Jun Aoqing and Jing Yuwei. Jun Aoqing was fusing the Heaven and Earth Saint Rune, while Jing Yuwei was absorbing the power of the Emperor Coffin. Before the two fused their powers, Nie Tian hadn't entered the sacred world yet. It had been more than a year now. When they woke up, they would definitely be very shocked by the world they were in. They definitely didn't expect that Nie Tian's strength could advance to such a level in such a short period of time. Rushi, how are the two of you? Inexplicably, Nie Tian thought of Mo Rushi. He hadn't seen the latter for a year or two. Calculating the time, their child should have been born safely. Being moved by the thought, Nie Tian's eyes became slightly moist. A man doesn't cry easily because he hasn't reached the depths of love. Boss, are you all right? At this moment, a familiar voice came from behind, bringing Nie Tian's thoughts back to reality. I'm fine. Nie Tian immediately recovered his composure and smiled faintly at Xie Tianquang, who was standing behind him. Xie Tianquang and Jun Jianxing were both cultivating in the 9 Superbs, and they accidentally saw the gentle side of Nie Tian. Let's go out first. Nie Tian smiled faintly and gestured for Xie Tianquang to take the unconscious man. The 3 of them came out of 9 Extremes. Xie Tianquang placed the man on the ground and laughed. This guy isn't big, but why is he so heavy? The corners of Nie Tian's mouth twitched as he said, he is a member of the Dragon Clan. His martial body is far stronger than ordinary people. As he spoke, he looked at Qi Jian with a slightly strange gaze. Nie Tian, just what secret do you think this person possesses to actually cause the hidden dragon Thorn to come after him? The corners of Qi Jian's mouth pulled into a strange arc as he asked with a smile. Recently, the experts of the Dragon Clan have all gone to the ancestral dragon's abyss. I heard that it's because of the Emperor's heart ancestral dragon. Nie Tian also smiled and said, I think what he knows should be the secret of the Emperor's heart ancestral dragon. The Emperor's heart ancestral dragon is a taboo matter of the Dragon Clan. We really shouldn't interfere. Why don't we return this kid to the Dragon Clan? Qi Jian raised an eyebrow and said seriously. I think it's fine. Nye Tian laughed and agreed. Are you guys crazy? At that moment, the man suddenly sprang to his feet, glared at Nye Tian and Qi Jian, and shouted, You went to great lengths to save me from the hidden dragon thorn, and now you want to send me back? Are you kidding me? You're the only one allowed to joke, but we're not? Nye Tian looked at the man and smiled faintly. The man was startled. Only then did he realize that Nye Tian and Qi Jian had purposely said that for him to hear. With how smart Nye Tian and Qi Jian were, they could tell that this guy had already woken up. They just didn't point it out. Oh, so you guys were joking. The man nodded with a smile and said, Old mister, little brother, thank you for saving my life. We'll go our separate ways, so let's part ways here. Then, he turned around and was about to leave. Nye Tian raised an eyebrow and looked at Xie Tianquang. The latter moved and landed like an iron tower to stop the man. Brother, you don't have to be so polite. I can walk myself. The man smiled slyly and went forward to push Xie Tianquang away. However, he realized that the latter's feet were rooted to the ground and he didn't move at all. An expert. The man's heart shook in shock. He sensed that Xie Tianquang's strength wasn't below his. And Xie Tianquang didn't even look as old as Nye Tian. He was clearly a child, so how could he be so strong? Nye Tian walked over with a faint smile on his face. However, his eyes revealed a domineering intent that couldn't be defied. What? The man's eyes trembled and he was still playing dumb. You think I won't dare to kill you just because the Dragon Clan dares to? Nye Tian's expression darkened and he said coldly, I just injured someone from the hidden dragon thorn and completely offended the Dragon Clan. Isn't this life-saving grace worth a few words from you? Then, he took a step forward and his eyes emitted a cold glint that was extremely sharp and murderous. He was clearly like a man-eating beast. The man frowned and finally realized that Nye Tian wasn't someone easy to deal with. Sir, do you really want to know? His expression changed and he said solemnly, You're not from the Dragon Clan. The Emperor's heart ancestral dragon is a taboo of the Dragon Clan. Knowing this won't do you any good. You know I'm not from the Dragon Clan? Nye Tian's gaze changed and he exclaimed in surprise. He had just released Dragon Chi to prove that he was from the Dragon Clan. It seemed like this brat had seen through it. Humph. The man sneered and said, The Dragon Chi you released earlier is something I've never seen before. It's extremely powerful. Even the legendary 4 great ancestral dragons might not be able to compare to it. However, your dragon vein isn't innate. It's formed after birth. So you're a human with a dragon vein? So what? So what? Nye Tian raised his eyebrows. He decided to drop the disguise and said with a cold smile. You're not from the Dragon Clan, but you want to know the Dragon Clan's secret? The man's expression also calmed down and he asked in a deep voice, What do you want? What's your goal? Nye Tian looked at the man in front of him and his lips twitched. He didn't expect this guy to be a tough nut to crack. You don't need to know my goal. In the next moment, Nye Tian's expression darkened and he said coldly, You just need to tell me what the Emperor's heart ancestral dragon is. If you're not from my clan, you must have a different heart. The man wasn't threatened at all and said sternly, Kill me. Nye Tian frowned and stared at the man, wanting to see fear in the latter's eyes. But he failed. Though the man was testing him, there was no fear in his eyes. Chapter 41-78. The person was stunned on the spot when he heard the name. He did not return to his senses for quite a while. After a long while, he finally reacted. His gaze towards Nye Tian was filled with extreme shock as he confirmed again, Are you really a dragon shepherd? Nye Tian nodded and smiled. How do you think an outsider would know about dragon shepherds, and how do you think he possesses such powerful dragon aura? His reply made the person sink into silence. He was shocked when he sensed Nye Tian's dragon aura earlier. As a member of the Dragon Clan, he had never seen such terrifying dragon aura before. Even the legendary 4 ancestral dragons could not match up to Nie Tion's dragon aura. He had been confused before. How could an outsider like Nie Tion possess such powerful dragon aura? Everything seemed to be clear now. However, he was still unable to accept that the dragon shepherds mentioned in the 3 void prophecies of the dragon clan were actually an outsider. Nie Tion was in no hurry. He gave the person sufficient time to accept it. A while later, the person looked at Nie Tion. A strange light flickered in his eyes as he asked sternly, "If you're really a dragon shepherd, you should know about the greatest taboo of the dragon clan, right?" The Daikarma ruin. Nie Tion smiled faintly and directly said a name. "You really know about it?" The person was stunned once again. He cried out in shock. Perhaps Nie Tion the dragon shepherd had learnt about it through luck, but it was impossible for him to know about the Daikarma ruin so easily. According to his knowledge, there were less than 5 people in the entire dragon clan who knew about the Daikarma ruin. It seemed like Nie Tion really was a dragon shepherd. "Not only have I heard of the Daikarma ruin, but I've even seen him in person." Nie Tion smiled faintly as he studied the person's reaction. "Are you saying that one of the 4 supreme experts who appeared in the Hidden Dragon competition of the 5 academies is a Daikarma ruin?" The person's eyes trembled as he asked sternly. The Hidden Dragon competition of Vast Cloud Sacred City had caused a huge uproar. Basically, everyone in the Saints' world knew about it. The appearance of the 4 supreme experts directly overturned the cultivators' understanding of the peak of martial arts. Moreover, the entire Vast Cloud Sacred City, and even the entire All-Heaven Sacred World, nearly suffered a calamity because of it. However, most people did not know who those 4 super experts were, nor did they know where they came from. "Yes." Nie Tion nodded and said, "It seems that you have also secretly investigated. I have really underestimated you." The man frowned and said, "After I heard about this, I guessed that there might be Emperor Karma ruins among the 4 experts. So I went to Vast Cloud Sacred City to check, and there was indeed Emperor Dragon energy. However, I'm not sure that the Emperor Dragon Chi was left behind by the Emperor Karma ruins. After all, the Daikarma ruins only existed in legends before. Whether it really exists or not is still a question. But when I saw you, I was sure that that person was the Emperor of Karma." The corner of Nie Tion's mouth twitched as he said, "So you believe me?" "Yes." The man nodded, and his expression suddenly became stern. Looking at Nie Tion, he suddenly knelt on one knee and said in a clear voice, "Subordinate Yao greets the dragon herder." Nie Tion frowned. He did not expect Yao to act like this. He hurriedly helped him up and said, "You don't have to be so polite. I'm Nie Tion. We can just talk like friends." Somehow, he began to like this dragon cultivator called Yao in front of him. Yao stood up and let out a deep breath. Looking like he was relieved of a heavy burden, he said, "So grandfather and father didn't lie to me." "What do you mean?" Nie Tion was taken aback and had a look of confusion. "I'm a member of the Night Dragon clan." Yao's gaze trembled as he said seriously, "Night Dragon clan?" Nie Tion still had a look of surprise. He did not understand what was so unusual about the Night Dragon clan. "Night Dragon clan!" Qi Jian, who was next to him, suddenly exclaimed, "So this branch of the Dragon clan has descendants. You know about the Night Dragon clan?" Yao looked at the weathered elder in front of him and was also surprised. The Night Dragon clan was a hidden clan of the Dragon clan. Not to mention outsiders, even the Dragon clan itself knew about it. Legend has it that the Night Dragon clan is the clan of prophecies of the Dragon clan. Qi Jian nodded and said, "The 3 great prophecies of the Dragon clan all came from the Night Dragon clan. At the same time, the Night Dragon clan is known as the Dragon Herder Protectors. Their clansmen have been waiting for the Dragon Herders to appear. However, due to the special bloodline of the Night Dragon clan, they could not marry other clans. They could only marry within the same clan. Hence, after the catastrophe a long time ago, the number of the Night Dragon clan decreased. I thought the Night Dragon clan was already extinct. I did not expect that they still have descendants. Yi Yao looked at Qi Jian and his eyes trembled slightly. There was a trace of moisture at the corner of his eyes. It was obvious that Qi Jian's words made him recall many things. Most of what you said is correct. Moments later, Yi Yao calmed down and said with a solemn expression, "Perhaps I am the last member of the Night Dragon clan. If I die, the Night Dragon clan will be completely extinct." With that, he revealed an indescribable sorrow. As the last member of the clan, who could understand this kind of pain? "Yi Yao, why does the hidden dragon thorn want to kill you?" Nie Tian asked after Yi Yao calmed down. "I don't know either." Yi Yao shook his head and his eyes flickered strangely. "Perhaps this is what they want." As he spoke, he took out a smooth black stone and passed it to Nie Tian. "What is this?" Nie Tian took the stone and sensed it, but he could not sense any aura at all. He could not help but ask with a strange expression, "I don't know what it is exactly." Yi Yao shook his head uncertainly. "I'm guessing that this should be the key to open the Emperor's heart. Ancestral dragon." "Key?" Nie Tian frowned, a confused expression appearing on his face. "This is something passed down from generation to generation in the Night Dragon clan. However, because the lifespan of the Night Dragon clan is not long, no one knows what this thing is or what it can do." Yi Yao sighed and said, "My understanding of this thing is from an incomplete book. I got it from a tattered ancient book. Unfortunately, that ancient book is already extremely tattered and the contents are incomplete. I can only guess many things." "Ancient book?" Suddenly, Qi Jian raised his head and asked in shock with his eyes flickering with a strange light, "Is it the heavenly light dragon shadow?" Yi Yao looked at Qi Jian and could not help but be stunned. Then, he pondered and said, "Why should be?" As he spoke, he took out a tattered ancient book. The entire book was torn into two. Yi Yao was holding the lower half. There were 4 incomplete words on the cover, and he could not tell what they were. Chapter 4179. This. Nie Tian couldn't help but be stunned on the spot when he saw the 2 incomplete books were pieced together and actually matched. Qi Jian and Yi Yao were even more shocked. Their faces were lifeless as they stared at the incomplete book in a daze and couldn't react for a long time. Nie Tian calmed down slightly and looked at the 4 words on the cover of the incomplete book, but he was puzzled because he didn't recognize the words on it at all. It seemed to be another type of language that had a strange shape and was obscure and difficult to understand. At the same time, it contained some sort of strange changes. "It really is Heavenly Light Dragon Shadow," Qi Jian reacted, and his hand that held the incomplete book trembled. It was unknown if it was because he was too excited or something else, but the corners of his eyes were actually a little moist. "Senior, what exactly is going on?" Yi Yao reacted as well and asked with a frown. It was obvious that he didn't know much about the incomplete book, and he obviously didn't know as much as Qi Jian. Qi Jian took a deep breath and calmed down. He said, "When I was young, I've always been interested in the history of the Angel Clan and the Dragon Clan, so I often looked up some ancient books. The half of Heavenly Light Dragon Shadow in my hand is precisely what I found in the vast ancient book. In the beginning, I couldn't understand the words on the book, but I didn't give up and slowly studied it. Finally, I found some information from other ancient books, and coupled with my own understanding, I slowly understood the things recorded in the book. Unfortunately, I only have half of Heavenly Light Dragon Shadow, so I only know a little about many things. For so many years, I've been looking for the other half of Heavenly Light Dragon Shadow. I didn't expect it to actually be in your hands." Qi Jian's gaze burned with desire, while his excitement was beyond words. "Senior, what you know about the Dragon Clan should be from this book, right?" Yi Yao quickly calmed down and said, "Yes." Qi Jian nodded and said, Heavenly Light Dragon Shadow recorded many secrets about the Angel Clan and the Dragon Clan, and it even included many things that the two clans don't know and records about the origins of the two clans. Looks like the incomplete book my father left behind is extremely unusual. Yi Yao was extremely shocked. My father likes to look up ancient books, and he taught me how to read the words in the book. Unfortunately, I'm not very interested in these things, so I don't understand many of the things recorded in the book. Young man, do you know that this book could very well change the future of our Angel Clan and the Dragon Clan? Qi Jian said excitedly as he held the book in his hand like it was a supreme treasure. Senior, since that's the case, I'll give this half of the book to you. Yi Yao laughed and said, however, if you discover anything from above, you must tell me. All right. Qi Jian's eyes trembled as he nodded heavily. Patriarch, take a look and see if there are any records about this black stone in the books. Nie Tian had long since become impatient, and he directly urged the Patriarch. All right. Qi Jian replied before he started to flip through the book, and his fingers were clearly trembling. Over here. Soon, Qi Jian found the records of the Night Dragon race in the Heavenly Light Dragon Shadow and said, the book says that the Night Dragon race has been guarding the Emperor's Heart Stone for generations. Emperor Heart Stone. Nie Tian frowned as he stared at the black stone in his hand. His lips twitched as he asked, this black stone is the Emperor's Heart Stone? It should be. Qi Jian nodded and continued reading. As he read, he said, the Emperor's Heart Stone can activate the Emperor's Heart Ancestral Dragon and summon the Emperor Dragon. Summon the Emperor Dragon. Nie Tian's pupils shrank involuntarily as he exclaimed in shock. The Emperor Dragon was obviously the number one taboo of the Dragon Clan, the Emperor Karmic Ruin. So the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon was used to summon the Emperor Karma Ruins. All of a sudden, Nie Tian thought of something and exclaimed, I see. Understand what? Qi Jian and Yi Yao were shocked to the point their expressions changed, and they asked in unison. When I was in Vast Cloud Sacred City, the Daikarma ruins were dragged into the primordial starry sky. Nie Tian's eyes flickered with astonishment as he said, the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon can summon the Emperor Karmic Ruin, which is to pull him back from the primordial starry sky. Clearly, someone wants the Emperor Karma Ruin to return to the all-heavens, sacred world. Yi Yao's eyes trembled, and he immediately reacted. His face was filled with shock, and he was speechless. If the Emperor Karma Ruin returned, the entire dragon race would face the threat of extinction. Even the all-heavens, sacred world would be in turmoil. We must not let the Emperor Karma Ruin return. Qi Jian also reacted and said solemnly. One demon god Qi was troublesome enough. If the Emperor Karma Ruin returned, the world would truly be in chaos. No wonder. The Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon has always been in hiding. Why would it suddenly appear? Yi Yao calmed down and came to a realization. He then asked in confusion, just who in the dragon race wants the Emperor Dragon to return? The hidden dragon thorn must have been ordered by the upper echelon of the dragon race to kill Yi Yao. The person who could mobilize the hidden dragon thorn was definitely someone of great status. Without a doubt, the current dragon race had supporters of the Emperor Karma Ruin. Let's not worry about that for now. Nie Tian nodded slightly. Since the Emperor's Heartstone is the key to activating the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon, we must not lose it. Yes. Yi Yao nodded heavily. Without the Emperor's Heartstone, they can't activate the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon and can't summon the Emperor Dragon. This. Right then, Qi Jian suddenly exclaimed and looked at the book in his hand in shock. He shook his head and said in horror, Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Patriarch, are you all right? Nie Tian's expression changed as he asked anxiously. It was definitely not a small matter for Qi Jian to be so terrified. Yi Yao looked at the dragon shadow in the sky but could not understand what was written on it. Qi Jian was stunned for a few seconds before he calmed down slightly. He suddenly looked at Nie Tian and Yi Yao and said, Do you know what the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon is? What is it? Nie Tian and Yi Yao's eyes trembled at the same time as they asked in shock. It's the heart. Qi Jian nodded and said word by word, it's the heart of the Emperor Karma Ruin. The heart of the Emperor Karma Ruin? Nie Tian frowned with a puzzled expression. He did not quite understand. The Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon was the heart of the Emperor Karma Ruin. Then why was it not in the Emperor Karma Ruin's body, but in the Ancestral Dragon's abyss? Moreover, the Emperor Karma Ruin had already appeared before. Could it be that he was in a state without a heart at that time? A martial artist could have no hands or legs, but how could he not have a heart? How could a person live without a heart? The Emperor Dragon's 3 hearts. Right then, Yi Yao seemed to have suddenly thought of something. His eyes trembled as he exclaimed. Nie Tian suddenly turned to look at Yi Yao with an even more puzzled expression. He knew that the Emperor Dragon was the Emperor Karma Ruin, but what did 3 hearts mean? Chapter 4180. So that's how it is. Nie Tian was stunned for a long time before he reacted. His eyes were still filled with unconcealable shock. He had never heard of anyone possessing the 3 hearts. Emperor Dragon's 3 hearts, it's actually true. Yi Yao also reacted at this moment. The shock on his face was even greater than Nie Tian's. Have you heard of Emperor Dragon's 3 hearts? Qi Jian's eyes trembled slightly as he looked at Yi Yao. Yi Yao took a long and deep breath, calmed himself down, and said, When I was young, my great-grandfather told me about the Emperor Dragon's 3 hearts. But at that time, I thought it was just my grandfather's fabrication, and it wasn't real. But now, I understand that it's actually true. Qi Jian nodded. Your Night Dragon clan was originally the guardian of the Dragon Nurturing clan and a clan of prophecies. You should have grasped many secrets of the Dragon clan. But it's a pity that the Night Dragon clan has too few people and their lifespans are too short. Many things are passed down by word of mouth. In the end, it's treated as myths and legends. That's right. Yi Yao sighed. Some great legends were buried just like that. Ancestor, Emperor Dragon has 3 hearts. Emperor Dragon's ancestral dragon is only one of his hearts. It has always existed in the ancestral dragon abyss. At this moment, Nie Tian suddenly thought of something. His eyes trembled. That means that back in Vast Cloud Sacred City, Emperor Dragon only had 2 hearts. He might only have 1 heart, right? Yes. Qi Jian naturally knew what Nie Tian wanted to express, so he nodded solemnly and said, De Long's battle prowess is already beyond imagination under the circumstances that his martial body isn't complete. If his 3 hearts returns and his martial body is complete, then his strength will be unimaginable. Nie Tian's eyes flickered as he fell silent. He had personally witnessed Emperor Dragon's strength back then. It wasn't any weaker than Yang God Sword Emperor, Li Yuan and Hayakuten. But Emperor Dragon's martial body was incomplete at that time. If his 3 hearts returned to 1, his strength would definitely have a qualitative increase. He would definitely be able to crush the other 3. The strength of Hayakuten and the others was already earth-shattering. It was hard to imagine how terrifying a complete Emperor Dragon's martial body was. Got it. At this time, Yi Yao suddenly understood something. His eyes trembled as he said, Those people don't just want to use the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon to summon back the Imperial Dragon, they also want the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon to return to its body. Yes. Nie Tian was smart and immediately understood. He nodded and said, We must not let the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon return to the body of an Imperial Dragon. When the Emperor's Karma Ruin came to Vast Cloud Sacred City, it already had the power to destroy the world. If the Emperor's heart was allowed to return, the whole sacred world would be doomed. The Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon can't return, and the Emperor Dragon can't return to the all-heaven sacred world. Qi Jian's eyes darkened as he said, According to what I know, there is a mysterious connection between the Qi Demon God and De Long. If the 2 of them work together, the All Saints world will definitely collapse. Nie Tion's eyes trembled. It looked like the All Saints world was truly on the brink of collapse this time. What do we do now? Yi Yao's expression clearly became nervous as he looked at Nie Tion and asked. Nie Tion's expression was dark as he recalled the entire matter. He said, "There must be traitors or staunch supporters of the Emperor Dragon in the current dragon race. Otherwise, the hidden dragon Thorn would not have chased after you. I can only speculate that the worst-case scenario is that the entire dragon race is already controlled by the traitors." Doesn't that mean that the enemy we have to face is the entire dragon race? Yi Yao's eyes trembled as he exclaimed, "Yes." Nie Tion nodded and glanced at Qi Jian. He said, "With just the few of us, it is clearly impossible to fight against the entire dragon race. We must ask for reinforcements." He judged that the overall strength of the dragon race was above the angel race. Although the two hidden dragon martial artists that appeared earlier were heavily injured by Qi Jian, it already showed that the strength of the dragon race was not to be underestimated. One had to know that Qi Jian was one of the 4 patriarchs of the angel race. His strength was not beneath the angel emperor. Just 2 hidden dragon martial artists were already so difficult to deal with. The overall strength of the dragon race was evident. Ask who? Yi Yao's eyes trembled as he had a blank expression. He did not know what the background of Nie Tion and Qi Jian was, but he could not ask any important figures. "Patriarch, I feel that the fewer people who know about this, the better. We will only ask for true experts." Nie Tion looked at Qi Jian and said solemnly, "After all, the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon was related to the survival of the entire All Heavens sacred world. Once news of it spread, it would definitely cause panic. Therefore, it was better to ask for one person than many." "Yes." Qi Jian nodded heavily and agreed with Nie Tion. He thought for a moment and said, "We will use 9 people. The 5 deans and the 4 of us old fellows." The 4 of them naturally referred to the 4 patriarchs of the angel race. The 4 blood-winged protectors are very strong. Ask them to help as well, Nie Tion said with a frown. In his opinion, even if the 4 blood-winged protectors were not as strong as Qi Jian and the others, they were not far off. The 4 of them are only experts when they are in the Bloodwing Valley. Once they leave the Bloodwing Valley, their strength will be much weaker, Qi Jian explained with a bitter smile. "I see." Nie Tion understood and did not force it. Then, he glanced at the people in front of him and thought for a moment before saying, "Jun Jianxing, immediately head to the everlasting sacred world's Cloud Extreme City. The 5 deans should be there." With that, he created an image with his consciousness and sealed it into a scroll. He handed the scroll to Jun Jianxing and said, "The 5 deans will understand everything once they see this scroll. The 5 deans have seen the Emperor Heart Ruin's strength with their own eyes. They will definitely understand the importance of the matter and will not decline." "Okay." Jun Jianxing took the scroll and nodded heavily. "Xiao Kuang, head to the City of Angels," Nie Tion said to Xie Tianquang and then looked at Qi Jian. The latter understood and also created an image with his consciousness. He made it into a scroll and handed it to Xie Tianquang. "Boss, don't worry. I will definitely complete the mission." Xie Tianquang took the scroll. He did not panic but was very excited. Nie Tion nodded slightly and took out 2 tokens. He handed the Angel Sacred Token to Xie Tianquang and the Myriad Yuan Sacred Token to Jun Jianxing and said, "This trip might be dangerous. You can use these 2 tokens to find experts from the Angel Clan and the Myriad Yuan Pavilion to accompany you." The 2 took the tokens and nodded heavily. "Jun Jianxing, Xie Tianquang, the life and death of the all-heaven sacred world depends on you." Nie Tion's eyes darkened and he said solemnly, "We will definitely not disappoint you." The 2 were moved and said in unison. Nie Tion nodded slightly and said, "After the mission is completed, you don't have to return. Stay in the City of Angels and Cloud Extreme City." Jun Jianxing and Xie Tianquang's expressions changed slightly, but they did not speak. Chapter 4181. Nie Tian watched as Jun Jianxing and Xie Tianquang's figures disappeared. He did not relax at all. The Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon was related to the survival of the all-heaven sacred world. Once the Emperor Karma Ruin returned, it would bring about a calamity. Qi Jian and Yi Yao alone could not stop the entire dragon race, so Jun Jianxing and Xie Tianquang became the key. I hope the two of them can contact the rescuers. Qi Jian sighed with a solemn expression. What about us? Yi Yao looked at Nie Tian, unsure of what to do next. The hidden dragon thorn has their eyes on you. They must have a way to track you since they found you. Nie Tian frowned and said after some thought, we can't escape. Why don't we go straight to the dragon's lair? Straight to the dragon's lair. Yi Yao was shocked. Are you going to the ancestral dragon's abyss? Yes, Nie Tian nodded with determination. I don't think that's appropriate, Qi Jian frowned. The dragon race needs the Emperor Heart Stone to activate the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon. If we go to the ancestral dragon's abyss, aren't we giving them the Emperor Heart Stone? Ancestor, Yi Yao is being watched. No matter how we run, we won't be able to escape the hidden dragon thorn's pursuit. Nie Tian looked at Qi Jian and said, I also feel that the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon, as one of the three imperial hearts, is not so simple. Even without the Emperor Heart Stone, the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon has it. It can be activated. The only way to stop the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon is to destroy it. Destroy the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon. Yi Yao's eyes flickered with shock when he heard Nie Tian's words. He didn't expect Nie Tian to be so ruthless as to want to destroy the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon. Yes, destroy the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon. Nie Tian nodded heavily. Since the dragon race has decided to activate the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon, they won't give up so easily. We can run, but only for a while. Instead of running, it's better to take the initiative and attack as defense. Qi Jian's eyes trembled slightly. Nie Tian was far more daring and resourceful than he had imagined. Courageous, resolute, ruthless, and decisive. Nie Tian glanced at them with a sharp glint flashing in his eyes. I think the Dragon Clan isn't completely under their control. It's very likely that they're being used by someone with ulterior motives. When we enter the Ancestral Dragon's abyss, we can make use of this opportunity to eliminate the traitors of the Dragon Clan. All right. After pondering for a long while, Yi Yao finally agreed and nodded heavily. Qi Jian thought for a long time before he finally nodded. Since the three of them had come to a decision, they did not delay any further and immediately headed to the Ancestral Dragon's abyss. 3 days later, the three of them arrived at the edge of an endless mountain range. The mountain range was like a dragon, lying on the great earth. Its aura was unbroken, like a torrential wave that connected to the horizon. This was the Demon Cloud Mountains, where the Ancestral Dragon's abyss was located. The Demon Cloud mountain range is much larger than I imagined, Nie Tian exclaimed as he looked at the majestic mountain range beneath his feet. Legend has it that the all-heaven sacred world was originally a single entity, but it was torn apart due to a sudden change in the world. The Demon Cloud mountain range was formed during that time. Qi Jian laughed and said, There's a towering precipice in the Demon Cloud mountain range. It's called the Demon Cloud Heavenly Rampart. It's straight up and down, as if it was carved by a giant sword. It's extremely spectacular. If I have time, I'll definitely go and take a look. Nie Tian laughed. Then, he looked at Yi Yao and said, Yi Yao, you lead the way. Yi Yao looked embarrassed as he shook his head and said, I don't know where the Ancestral Dragon's abyss is. Nie Tian was stunned and could not react for a long time. The Ancestral Dragon's abyss is a secret place of the Dragon Clan. Very few people know about it, Yi Yao said helplessly. It's even my first time coming to the Demon Cloud mountain range. All right, then we can only look for it slowly. Nie Tian smiled bitterly and could only accept it. The three of them entered the Demon Cloud mountain range and began to search for the ancestral dragon's abyss. Along the way, they met some Dragon Clan martial artists and tried to ask about the ancestral dragon's abyss, but they did not gain anything. Even among the Dragon Clan martial artists, there were very few who knew where the ancestral dragon's abyss was. Very soon, a few days passed and Yetian and the others still did not find anything. The Demon Cloud mountain range was too big. Trying to find the ancestral dragon's abyss was like looking for a needle in a haystack. We can't keep looking like this. It would be great if we could find someone to lead the way. Yi Yao looked at Nye Tian and could not help but say. The Demon Cloud mountain range is vast and boundless. How difficult is it to find someone to lead the way? Nye Tian frowned and his patience was about to run out. He felt it was strange. Why did the people from the hidden dragon thorn not appear after so many days? Could it be that they were not interested in the Emperor's heart stone? At this moment, a few figures appeared in front of them. They were a few very young Dragon Clan martial artists, and they were discussing something with great interest. Looking at them, Nye Tian unleashed his soul awareness to examine them. Who were those people just now? Why did they look so fierce? They are from the Dragon Clan, but they are dressed very strangely. I have never seen them like that before. They are holding two people. I secretly sense them. The dragon chi of those two people is very strong, far stronger than that of ordinary Dragon Clan martial artists. Could they be ancestral dragon martial artists? The four great ancestral dragons are basically extinct. How can there be so many ancestral dragon martial artists? The few of them spoke one after another and soon arrived beside Nye Tian and the others. They looked at Nye Tian and the others with very strange expressions. They were clearly very vigilant and wanted to leave quickly. However, right at this moment, Nye Tian called out coldly, "Stop!" Nye Tian's figure moved and blocked their way. His eyes shone with a cold light as he swept his gaze over the few of them. What do you want?" The few of them were very young and not very strong. Obviously, they were frightened by Nye Tian. One of them asked in a trembling voice. "I heard what you said just now. Where did those people in strange clothes go?" Nye Tian asked in a deep voice with a cold expression. That direction." The man was so scared that his face was covered in cold sweat. He pointed in a direction and said, "Let's go." Nye Tian glanced at him, then directly dashed in the direction he had pointed. Vaguely, he felt that this matter might not be so simple. They were extremely fast. After about half an hour, they finally saw a few figures appear in front of them. Black dragon guards. Knight looked at the figures from afar and his eyes trembled slightly. He exclaimed secretly, "Ancestral dragon martial artists." Nye Tian's expression changed and he was even more shocked. He saw that the martial artists were holding two young faces. The dragon chi in their bodies was the ancestral dragon's chi. Chapter 4182. Xian Chia. Nye Tian's heart trembled as his gaze trembled. Back then, he met Xian Chia in the 5 underworld sacred world. At that time, the latter was still in a draconic hibernation state and was on the verge of death. After fusing with the mortal slaughter star soul, he finally awakened the nether dragon physique. To be more precise, Nye Tian had only seen Xian Chia in his draconic form, and the latter was currently in his human form. However, Nye Tian's perception was extremely powerful. Coupled with the demon eye, he could directly see through Xian Chia's draconic form and the latter's nether dragon chi. There was no way he would mistake it for someone else. Xian Chia was actually captured. Yi Yao, who are they? Nye Tian did not act impulsively and transmitted his voice to Yi Yao instead. They're Black Dragon Guards. Yi Yao replied, I never thought that the Black Dragon clan still exists. When the Imperial Karmic Ruins rebelled, the Black Dragon clan was its accomplice. After the Imperial Karmic Ruins lost, the Black Dragon clan was expelled from the All-Heaven Sacred World. Black Dragon Clan. Nie Tian's gaze trembled slightly as if he had thought of something. He had a plan. Next, they did not act rashly to alert the enemy and followed them in secret. The 4 black dragon guards were extremely cautious as they slowly escorted Xianqie and Yi Yao. They would occasionally check their surroundings and were very vigilant. However, Nie Tian and the others hid very well and were not discovered. About half a day later, the 4 black dragon guards arrived at a huge mountain stream that was as straight as a sword and stopped. What are they doing? Nie Tian frowned as he saw a huge mountain wall on the other side of the mountain stream. It was straight and smooth as if it was carved out by a giant sword. This is the demonic cloud heavenly wall. Qi Jian, on the other hand, frowned and said to Nie Tian through voice transmission, "They seem to be here to do something important. Don't tell me there's something strange about the devil cloud heaven wall?" So this is the demonic cloud heavenly wall. Nie Tian's heart sank. Qi Jian had mentioned the demonic cloud heavenly wall to him before. Now that he saw it with his own eyes, it was truly a work of uncanny craftsmanship. Blood. At this moment, a black dragon guard said in a deep voice and took out a strange black stone. The next moment, the demonic cloud sky wall seemed to have sensed something and released several black runes that merged into the black stone in the black dragon guard's hand. Subsequently, another black dragon guard chopped down with his palm. The ancestral dragon cultivator, who had yet to lose consciousness, was beheaded. Blood gushed out like a fountain and merged into the black stone. Nie Tian's eyes couldn't help but tremble when he saw this. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. He didn't even have time to react. And at this time, another black dragon guard took out a similar black stone. The devil cloud sky wall immediately sensed it, and black runes appeared again, merging into the black stone. The black dragon guard raised his arm and slashed at Xianqia's neck. Pooh! But just as his palm was about to land, a sharp light suddenly flashed in front of his eyes. His body suddenly froze, and his head was separated from his body, flying high into the air. Blood splattered in the air. "Who is it?" the other 3 black dragon guards cried out in shock. In that instant they felt an abnormally powerful wave of pupil power. It was extremely terrifying. "You all deserve to die." At this moment, a low roar sounded. Then, a figure flew out like a bolt of lightning. Several rays of sword light shot out like raging dragons. 2 black dragon guards didn't even have time to react before they were killed. The remaining black dragon had both his arms chopped off, and he couldn't fight back at all. The next moment, a silver-haired figure descended, as sharp as a sword. What a fast sword! Yi Yao's figure moved, and he looked at Nie Tian in amazement. These 4 black dragon guards were all 5th Heaven Tribulation Sage Kings, and Nie Tian was only at the 9th level of heavenly righteousness. Yet, he could instantly kill 3 of them and cripple one. His strength was shocking. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that there was such a heaven-defying cultivator in the world. Nie Tian smiled at Yi Yao, but didn't say anything. Who are you?" At this moment, the black dragon guard who had both his arms chopped off looked at Nie Tian with fear in his eyes. He was obviously scared out of his wit. Nie Tian ignored him. Instead, he walked up to check on Xianqie, and only relaxed after confirming that the latter was fine. "What is that black stone in your hand?" Nie Tian asked coldly as he looked at the black dragon guard. "Who are you? How dare you kill a member of the dragon clan?" The black dragon guard calmed down a little and said coldly. Nie Tian's eyes turned cold. He stepped forward, grabbed the top of the guard's head, and said sternly, "I'll ask again. Don't get it wrong. What is that black stone in your hand?" It's the forbidden dragon bloodstone." The black dragon guard trembled in fear, and sweat dripped from his forehead like rain. He didn't dare to be arrogant anymore. "What is it used for?" Nie Tian asked with a frown. "To store the ancestral dragon's blood and activate the imperial dragon's qi," the guard answered nervously. Just now, What was the rune that the dragon blood forbidden stone absorbed from the demonic cloud sky wall? Nye Tian asked in a deep voice as he clenched his fist. As long as this person made the slightest movement, he would not hesitate to kill him. It's the Imperial Dragon's forbidden mark, the guard answered with a trembling voice. His entire body was stiff and his tongue was numb. Imperial Dragon's forbidden mark? Nye Tian frowned and asked in a deep voice, "What's its use?" I don't know either," the guard said with a trembling voice. He could feel drops of blood seeping out from his forehead. "You really don't know?" Nye Tian's expression was cold, and he clenched his fists even harder. One could even hear the sound of his skull cracking. I really don't know," the guard said in a deep voice. His teeth didn't listen to him anymore. Nye Tian furrowed his brows and was about to ask something else when he suddenly felt a terrifying oppressive force coming from above, causing his expression to change involuntarily. "Don't force him. He really doesn't know what the Imperial Dragon's forbidden mark is. Even if you kill him, it's useless." At that moment, a cold voice was heard. Then, a figure in black appeared in the sky. He was like a black mountain, giving people a supreme pressure. "It's really you." Nye Tian raised his head and looked at the person. His eyes trembled slightly, and he suddenly clenched his fists. The black dragon guard's head exploded and he died. His eyes were fixed on the figure in black in the sky, and a strange light surged in his eyes. He was no stranger to the figure in black. It was one of the black dragon evils that wanted to kill him that day, the evil Feather King. Back then, when the three evils descended, if it weren't for a mysterious warrior and lonely star, he would have died in the hands of the three evils. The black dragon evils were blocked by the mysterious warrior and lonely star, and they fled in a sorry state. Not long ago, when the Emperor Karma ruin descended in vast cloud sacred city, the black dragon evils did not appear. Unexpectedly, they appeared here. Chapter 4183. Black Dragon Triad, It's All Your Fault. Nye Tian looked at Fiend Feather in the sky with murderous eyes. Everything was clear now. The Black Dragon Triad was behind the Emperor Heart Ancestral Dragon. Hyakuten had dragged the Emperor Karma ruin into the primordial galaxy not long ago, but the Black Dragon Triad was able to control the entire dragon tribe in such a short time. Their methods and speed were incredible. "Dragon Shepherd, this is the second time we've met." Fiend Feather's eyes were deep and cold. He said, "I didn't expect you to be so daring to come here. I also didn't expect you to bring me the Emperor's Heart Stone. I thought I'd have to go through some trouble to get the Emperor's Heart Stone. It seems like it's much easier than I thought." Then, he smiled coldly. At the same time, he released the black malevolent chi from his body. It was like dark clouds, making the surroundings dark and gloomy. The pressure suddenly became stronger. Nye Tian's eyes froze. He suddenly felt it hard to breathe. Fiend Feather was the weakest among the Black Dragon Triad, but he wasn't an ordinary divine ancestor martial artist. It was terrifying that Nye Tian could still stand in the face of such an expert. "Easy?" Qi Jian sneered and took a step forward. Flames burst out from his body and turned into a giant flaming hand to resist the black malevolent chi. An expert from the angel tribe. No wonder the hidden dragon thorn failed. The Fiend Feather King laughed coldly. After that, his body transformed into a gigantic black dragon, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. Boundless dragon chi gushed forth, pressing down on Lin Fan. "Blarg!" Qi Jian's eyes trembled as he let out a muffled groan. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood. The giant flaming hand shattered. Fiend Feather's strength was beyond his imagination. He couldn't bear it. "Ancestral ancestor!" Nye Tian couldn't help but shout. Fiend Feather's aura was much stronger than the last time. It was terrifying. "Don't worry about me. Go." Qi Jian's angel wings appeared on his back. The power of his flames surged and blocked the black malevolent chi. "This." Nye Tian's eyes trembled. He didn't know what to do for a moment. Nia Tian, I'll be fine. All of you, quickly leave this place. Qi Jian spoke in a deep voice. His palm became extremely heavy, and it was obvious that it was extremely strenuous. Roar! High up in the sky, the black dragon let out an angry roar that shook the surroundings. Nia Tian suddenly raised his head and steeled his heart. He directly placed Xian Xie into the 9 extremities and prepared to leave. Nia Tian, wait a minute. But at this moment Yi Yao shouted out, pointed to the Devil Cloud sky wall and said, "Look over there." Nia Tian turned to look at the Devil Cloud sky rampart. On the huge mountain rampart there was actually a huge whirlpool that emitted waves of space-time aura. This is... He was so shocked that he couldn't react for a moment. The dragon blood forbidden stones that the Black Dragon Guards had used to absorb the ancestral dragon blood were the Imperial Dragon forbidden patterns that they had sensed from the demonic cloud sky wall. The Devil Cloud heavenly wall was definitely not ordinary. I got it. At this moment Yi Yao suddenly came to his senses. His eyes were filled with joy as he looked at Nia Tian and said with surprise, "Follow me." Nia Tian was slightly stunned, not knowing what was going on. Yi Yao's figure leaped forward like a ray of flowing light and directly rushed toward the whirlpool on the Devil Cloud sky wall. "Yi Yao!" Nia Tian was startled and shouted, but Yi Yao's figure had already disappeared into the whirlpool. He hesitated for a moment and glanced at Qi Jian, who was fighting a bitter battle. Without staying any longer, he followed Yi Yao into the whirlpool. In the next instant, Nia Tian felt a strong suction force appear and forcefully pull him into a space-time door. Then, he appeared in an unfamiliar world. Beside him stood Yi Yao with a face full of amazement. "Yi Yao, what's going on?" Nia Tian looked at everything in front of him and could not help but ask Yi Yao who was beside him. At this moment they were in midair. In front of them was a boundless sky, and below their feet was a lush mountain range and forest. They had arrived at a whole new world that was full of vitality. If I'm not wrong, this is the ancestral dragon's abyss. Yi Yao looked at the horizon and smiled faintly. Ancestral dragon's abyss? Nia Tian was stunned for a moment. The world in front of him was completely different from the ancestral dragon's abyss that he had imagined. He thought that the ancestral dragon's abyss would be a deep abyss where not even a blade of grass grew. How could it be such a prosperous world? The ancestral dragon's abyss is a secret place of the Dragon Clan. It's very mysterious and ordinary people do not know about it. Yi Yao laughed and said, "Although I have never been to the ancestral dragon's abyss, I heard from my grandfather that the ancestral dragon's abyss is a paradise that is isolated from the rest of the world. When I saw the Devil Cloud sky wall just now, I felt that it was a little strange. So, I used the Emperor's Heart Stone to test it out. Indeed, a space-time door was opened." Nia Tian could not help but be shocked. So that space-time door was opened by Yi Yao. Since this is the ancestral dragon's abyss, then the legendary Emperor's Heart ancestral dragon should be here. After a while, Nia Tian became cold and said solemnly, "Yes." Yi Yao nodded and said, "I tested it just now. The Emperor's Heart Stone can sense the existence of the Emperor's Heart ancestral dragon. Then, can you use the Emperor's Heart Stone to find the Emperor's Heart ancestral dragon?" Nia Tian's eyes trembled as he looked at Yi Yao with a burning gaze. "Yes." Yi Yao nodded, but then he looked worried and said, "The Emperor's Heart ancestral dragon is one of the 3 hearts of the Emperor Dragon. I'm afraid it's already being guarded by the experts of the Dragon Clan. With just the 2 of us, it'll be difficult to get close to the Emperor's Heart ancestral dragon." Nia Tian frowned and fell into silence for a while. Now that only the 2 of them entered the ancestral dragon's abyss, not only would they be able to find the Emperor's Heart ancestral dragon, but their lives would also be in danger. The entire ancestral dragon's abyss was already under the control of the Dragon Clan. If they were discovered, there would only be one outcome: death. I wonder if Senior Qijian will be able to find us after we enter the ancestral dragon's abyss? Yi Yao frowned and was very worried. The old ancestor saw us disappear from the demonic cloud sky rampart. He will definitely find a way to come in. Nie Tian became cold and nodded. Now, let's find the Emperor's heart ancestral dragon first. All right. Yi Yao nodded. Then, he suddenly thought of something and his eyes lit up. Nie Tian, I thought of a way that can let us get close to the Emperor's heart ancestral dragon safely. Chapter 4184. Disguise. Nie Tian looked at Yi Yao in confusion. They were currently in the ancestor dragon abyss, surrounded by dragon race cultivators. Yi Yao actually wanted to disguise himself as an ancestor dragon cultivator. Was this a joke? How could dragon race cultivators disguise themselves with their sensitivity and understanding of dragon chi? Nie Tian, do you know what the night dragon race is best at? Yi Yao naturally knew what Nie Tian was thinking. He smiled faintly and said, hiding and changing auras. Nie Tian's eyes lit up. He immediately became interested. Yi Yao had indeed hidden himself very well. Even Qi Jian had not seen through him. The night dragon race can hide their dragon chi. Even dragon race cultivators will find it hard to detect. Yi Yao's lips curled up. On the other hand, night dragon cultivators can also change their dragon chi and disguise themselves as other dragon race cultivators. Your friend should be one of the 4 ancestor dragons, the 7 fiend abyssal dragon, right? Yi Yao continued. Then, his aura started changing. He released dragon chi and asked, look at my aura. Is it different from his? This. Nie Tian was flabbergasted and didn't know what to say. The dragon chi that Yi Yao released was indeed very similar to the nether dragon chi. Under normal circumstances, he would not be able to detect that Yi Yao released a fake nether dragon chi. What about me? Nie Tian became cold and asked with a frown. Yi Yao could disguise himself as a 7 fiend abyssal dragon cultivator. What about him? I can help you disguise yourself as a black dragon guard. Yi Yao smiled faintly. Then, he released his aura and wrapped it around Nie Tian. Immediately, Nie Tian released a faint black dragon chi. It was very similar to the black dragon guard from before. Nie Tian sensed himself and was shocked. He did not expect Yi Yao to have such a method. Now I am your prisoner. Let's go. Yi Yao finished everything and smiled faintly. The two did not waste any more time. They disguised themselves as black dragon guards and headed in the direction of the Emperor Heart ancestral dragon. Yi Yao followed the Emperor Heart stone senses and got closer to the Emperor Heart ancestral dragon. Slowly, the number of dragon race martial artists around them increased. Most of them were in groups of 3 to 5, looking very busy, as if preparing for something. The 2 of them disguised themselves well and did not arouse any suspicions. Nie Tian, these people seem to be in a hurry. Did something happen? Knight looked at the crowd and could not help but send a voice transmission to Nie Tian. Nie Tian nodded slightly. Then, he stopped a cultivator and asked with a smile, Brother, what are you going to do in such a hurry? The Emperor Heart ancestral dragon has appeared. Lord Dragon Emperor is going to hold the Emperor Heart sacrificial ceremony on the Emperor Heart platform. That person said and left in a hurry. Emperor Heart sacrificial ceremony? Nie Tian frowned in confusion. He had a hunch that the Emperor Heart ritual wasn't as simple as it seemed. What's going on with you two? Just then, a low roar rang out. 2 figures appeared in front of Nie Tian, looking extremely ferocious. When Nie Tian turned around and saw 2 black dragon guards detaining a martial artist, he could not help but tremble. He was no stranger to the ancestral dragon martial artist being detained. It was Zhu Shi, who was also known as the Heaven-Subduing One. He had never thought that Zhu Shi, who had dominated the Hidden Dragon contest, would become a prisoner. It was obvious that Zhu Shi had been captured just like Xianxia. I'm under Lord Black Elder's order to escort him to. Tian became cold and said in a low voice. However, he was interrupted by one of the black dragon guards before he could finish his sentence. Come with us. The black dragon guard was very overbearing and said in a cold manner. Yes. Tian nodded slightly and put on a very obedient look. Then, Tian brought Yi Yao with him, and followed behind the two black dragon guards to a mysterious place. Along the way, Zhu Shi kept looking back at Tian. It was obvious that he recognized Tian, but he did not say anything. Tian's face was tense. He was a little nervous, afraid that Zhu Shi would expose him. Soon, the few of them arrived at the entrance of a crypt. They followed the stairs in the crypt and went underground. As soon as they entered the crypt, Tian felt a strong smell of blood. It was extremely strong, but it was not pungent. Instead, it made his blood flow more smoothly. Brother, what is this place? Tian was very curious and could not help but ask the other black dragon guard in a low voice. Why are you asking so many questions? That person was very disgusted and replied cold. Tian frowned and did not say anything else. After a while, they walked along the underground tunnel to the end. An unusually majestic underground palace appeared in front of them. The space in front of them suddenly widened. Huge stone pillars with dragon carvings supported a huge palace. I can't believe there's such a huge palace under the ground. Tian's eyebrows furrowed, his heart filled with excitement. He had seen many palaces, but this was the first time he had seen an underground palace of this scale. The stone pillars were huge and old. It was obvious that they had existed for a long time. Tian estimated that this underground palace was at least 1,000,000 years old, maybe even longer. Follow us closely. Don't look around. One of the black dragon guards glared at Tian and said cold. Yes. Tian nodded obediently, but his eyes could not help but look around. The two black dragon guards led the way. Soon, they passed through the entire palace and entered a deep tunnel. They went even deeper underground. Tian immediately sensed that the bloody aura was even more intense, and it actually made him feel as if his bloodline was restless. Then, they walked down the stairs in the tunnel. The smell of blood was getting stronger. Where are they taking us? Tian could not help but mutter in his heart. He felt a little uneasy. Soon, they came to the end of the tunnel. The scene that greeted them made Tian's heart tremble. He was almost suffocating. In front of him was a huge stone pool with a diameter of 100 meters. In the middle of the stone pool was a huge stone pillar. It was so tall that the top could not be seen. No one knew where it led to. And in the stone pool there was not water, but blood. Fresh human blood. Yi Yao and Zhu Shi were also stunned. They were completely shocked by the scene in front of them. They wondered how deep the stone pool was and how much human blood it contained. At this moment, the two black dragon guards took out black stones. They were the dragon blood forbidden stones that Tian had seen before. They activated the incantation and blood flowed out of the dragon blood forbidden stones into the stone pool. Ancestral dragon blood. In an instant, Tian understood that the blood in the stone pool was actually the blood of those ancestral dragon warriors. How many ancestral dragon warriors had died in such a large pool of blood? Yi Yao and Zhu Shi's expressions were sluggish, as though they had become fools. Chapter 4185. Tian's heart clenched when he saw Zhu Shi being held by the neck. What are you doing? Zhu Shi's face was flushed red. He said with difficulty, My grandfather is the divine dragon ambassador. You can't kill me. Little bastard, even if your father was the dragon emperor, you won't be able to escape today. The black dragon guard sneered and immediately wanted to kill Zhu Shi. However, his hand instantly stiffened and his entire body seemed to have been petrified. You! He turned around with difficulty, but he only managed to twist his neck halfway before the light in his eyes completely disappeared. The other black dragon guard suffered the same fate. He was killed instantly. Behind them, Nye Tian snapped their necks with both hands. This! Yi Yao was stunned by the scene in front of him, and he gasped, unable to say a word. One of the Black Dragon Guards was a Tribulation 9th Sage King, and the other was a Heavenly Enlightenment 1st Sage Emperor. They were much stronger than Nye Tian. However, Nye Tian had killed them in the blink of an eye. His strength and methods were too terrifying. The two Black Dragon Guards were indeed very strong, but Nye Tian had relied entirely on the power of his martial body to attack at such a close distance. In terms of physical strength, the two Black Dragon Guards might not be stronger than him. In addition, his attacks were cold and hard to defend against. That was why the two Black Dragon Guards had been killed. If it had been a normal battle, Nye Tian might not have been their match. Because of this, Nye Tian had been so decisive in his attacks that he didn't give his opponent the slightest chance to survive. "Are you all right?" Nye Tian asked Zhu Shi with a frown after killing the Black Dragon Guards. Zhu Shi was in a daze. His eyes were dull, and he no longer had the aura of a heaven conqueror. Ever since he had been defeated by Nye Tian, his sharpness had dimmed. Coupled with the threat of death, he was in such a sorry state. I'm fine now." Zhu Shi reacted, took a deep breath, and calmed himself down. He looked at Nye Tian and said, "Thank you very much. Didn't you not expose me for this moment?" Nye Tian faintly smiled. Without further ado, he asked, "What happened to the Dragon Clan?" "I don't know either." Zhu Shi shook his head and sighed. "I don't know why, but it seems like everyone has suddenly gone mad." "Crazy!" Nye Tian frowned, not understanding what Zhu Shi meant. "Lord Dragon Sovereign sent people to imprison my grandfather, and even the 9 holy elders are nowhere to be found. The various patriarchs of the Dragon Clan are rushing to the ancestral dragon abyss to participate in the Emperor's heart sacrificial ceremony." Zhu Shi's expression was somewhat panicked, and his words were somewhat incoherent. No one could understand what he was saying. "Did you just say that your grandfather was the divine dragon envoy?" Yi Yao suddenly looked at Zhu Shi and asked. "Yes." Zhu Shi nodded and said, "But grandfather is already imprisoned, and I heard that the other 3 divine dragon envoys are also imprisoned." "That's strange." Yi Yao frowned and said to Nye Tian, "The higher-ups of the Dragon Clan are somewhat similar to the Angel Clan. Under the Dragon Sovereign, there are 3 divine dragon envoys and 9 holy elders. The divine dragon envoys are the most prestigious people in the Dragon Clan, equivalent to the elder of the Angel Clan. From what I know, the current Lord Dragon Sovereign is steady and humble, and has a good reputation among the various clans of the Dragon Clan. In recent years, there are signs of the Dragon Clan's revival, and it's all because of the Dragon Sovereign's painstaking efforts. The Dragon Sovereign suddenly imprisoned the 3 divine dragon envoys. This is too strange." Nye Tian's gaze turned gloomy, and his expression suddenly changed as he said in a deep voice, "Is it possible that the current Dragon Sovereign is no longer the original Dragon Sovereign? You mean to say that Lord Dragon Emperor has been controlled by someone?" Yi Yao frowned as he cried out in shock. Nye Tian nodded and said, "Before we entered this place, we met that Black Dragon martial artist. His name is Fiend Feather King, and he's one of the Black Dragon 3 fiends under Dikishu. Since he appeared, then the other Heaven Fiend King and Earth Fiend King should already be in the Dragon Clan. Heaven Fiend King and Earth Fiend King? Isn't it strange that they haven't shown themselves until now? Seems like the people who are secretly controlling the Dragon Sovereign are most likely the Heaven Fiend King and Earth Fiend King that you mentioned." Yi Yao was smart, and he immediately understood what Nye Tian meant. He had already seen Fiend Feather King's strength, and it was definitely not beneath the Dragon Sovereign. And the Heaven Fiend King and Earth Fiend King's strength should be above Fiend Feather King's. It wasn't strange that they could control the Dragon Sovereign. "You guys, what are you guys talking about?" Zhu Shi looked at Nye Tian and Yi Yao in horror and couldn't help but ask. Nye Tian took a look at him and didn't explain. Instead, he said, Zhu Shi, the Dragon Clan is now at a moment of life and death. If you want to save your grandfather and the Dragon Clan, then listen to me. This. Zhu Shi's face stiffened, and he was silent for a few seconds. Finally, he nodded. After the Hidden Dragon contest, he already had a deep fear of Nie Tian. At the same time, he was also very resentful of the latter. But Nie Tian had just saved his life, and he also felt that the Dragon Clan was facing a great calamity. What do we do now? Zhu Shi calmed down a little and asked Nie Tian. We have to think of a way to rescue the 3 divine dragon ambassadors first. Nie Tian said solemnly, and his face couldn't help but turn gloomy. With their strength, it was naturally impossible to turn the situation around. If they could rescue the 3 imprisoned divine dragon ambassadors, things would be much easier. Yu Shi, do you know where the 3 divine dragon ambassadors are imprisoned? Nie Tian looked at Zhu Shi and asked. I don't know. Zhu Shi shook his head and thought for a moment before saying, but I heard from them that Lord Dragon Emperor wants to use the divine dragon envoy's dragon blood for the Emperor Heart sacrificial ceremony. It's the Emperor Heart ritual again. Nie Tian's face darkened. This was the second time he heard about the Emperor Heart ritual. Previously, he had asked the other members of the Dragon Clan, and they were in a hurry to attend the Emperor's Heart sacrificial ceremony. Do you know what the Emperor's Heart ritual is for? Nie Tian looked at Zhu Shi and asked. It seems to be a bloodline baptism for the dragon race cultivators. Anyone who has undergone the baptism will have their bloodline power increase explosively. Zhu Shi knitted his brows and said, Lord Dragon King said that after the Emperor Heart ritual, the overall strength of the Dragon Clan will increase by several times. At that time, the Dragon Clan will be able to unify the heavens. The sacred world is here. Zhu Shi nodded and said, Bloodline baptism? Nie Tian's eyes flickered as he stared down at the blood pool and asked, With this blood pool? It's possible, Zhu Shi said, nodding. The blood in this blood pool is all dragon ancestors' blood. The Black Dragon Guards have captured almost all the ancestral dragon cultivators. Even those families that have been in seclusion for many years have been annihilated. There are also many ancestral dragon cultivators who do not have the ancestral dragon bloodline in their bodies. They are used to fill the blood pool. I understand. At this moment, Yi Yao suddenly screamed and his eyes were filled with fear. Chapter 4186. Looking at Yi Yao, Nie Tian's pupils shrank as he exclaimed, Control! Zhu Shi said that the Emperor's Heart sacrificial ceremony enhanced the Dragon Clan's bloodline through bloodline baptism, but Yi Yao said that it was used to control the Dragon Clan's martial artists. What was going on? Yes. Yi Yao nodded and looked at Nie Tian. Do you remember that when the Black Dragon Guards collected the ancestral dragon's blood, they used the Dragon Blood Forbidden Stone to absorb the Emperor Dragon Forbidden Runes? Nie Tian's eyes flickered as he nodded. I'm guessing that the Emperor Dragon Forbidden Runes are used in the ancestral dragon's blood to control the martial artists participating in the Emperor's Heart sacrificial ceremony. Yi Yao's eyes flickered as he looked at the blood pool and said, Sense the aura in the blood pool. Nie Tian frowned and his expression changed. He used his divine sense to sense the blood pool and his expression changed. Emperor Dragon Forbidden Runes. He could sense the aura of the Emperor Dragon Forbidden Runes in the blood pool. Previously, he did not notice it because the ancestral dragon's blood was too bloody and he did not pay attention to it. After Yi Yao's reminder, he sensed the blood pool and found it unusual. I got it. At this time, Zhu Shi finally reacted and said, You're saying that Lord Dragon Sovereign wants to use the Imperial Dragon Forbidden Rune in the ancestral dragon's blood to control the Dragon Clan martial artists participating in the Emperor Heart sacrificial ceremony. Yi Yao nodded and said, If I'm not wrong, the blood pool is prepared for the Emperor's Heart sacrificial ceremony. The stone pillar in the blood pool should be hollow and connected to the Emperor's Heart altar above. After the Emperor's Heart sacrificial ceremony begins, the ancestral dragon's blood in the blood pool will pass through the altar to participate in the ceremony. The martial artists will absorb it. However, they will not only absorb the ancestral dragon's blood, but also the Emperor Dragon Forbidden runes. In this way, their bloodline power will indeed improve, but they will also be controlled by the Emperor Dragon Forbidden runes. This. Zhu Shi's gaze trembled violently, and he was momentarily stunned speechless. Nie Tian furrowed his brows. His silhouette flickered as he flew towards the stone pillar in the middle of the blood pool. His silhouette froze as he placed his hand on the stone pillar, sensing the qi within. A moment later, he flew back and looked at Yi Yao with a solemn expression. He nodded and said, "The stone pillar is indeed hollow, and it's reinforced by an extremely powerful restriction. It's difficult to destroy." "Looks like my guess is right." Yi Yao nodded heavily and sighed. "Could it be that the Dragon Clan really can't hide this time? What do you know? Why did the Dragon Emperor want to hold the Emperor Heart sacrificial ceremony? Why does he want to control so many martial artists?" Zhu Shi could not help but ask loudly. Nie Tian took a look at him and paused briefly. Then, without holding anything back, he told him about the Emperor's Heart ancestral dragon. "So that's how it is." Zhu Shi was deeply shocked by Nie Tian's words. His face went completely blank after Nie Tian finished speaking. How could he have imagined that there was such a huge conspiracy and danger behind the Emperor Heart ancestral dragon? Once the Dragon Clan's forbidden Emperor Karmic Ruin returns, not only will the Dragon Clan be exterminated, but it will also be a disaster for the All Heavens sacred world. We can't allow such a thing to happen. After a moment, Zhu Shi calmed down, and his eyes gradually became determined as he said heavily, "Right now, the entire Dragon Clan is under the control of the Black Dragon Trio. Even the Dragon Emperor is probably a puppet." Yi Yao frowned and said solemnly, "Under such circumstances, it's impossible to turn the situation around with just the three of us. Perhaps I know where the 3 divine dragon ambassadors are imprisoned," Zhu Shi thought. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he exclaimed in surprise. Nie Tian looked at Zhu Shi and was about to say something, but Yi Yao beat him to it. The latter sighed and said, "Even if we know where the divine dragon ambassadors are imprisoned, we can't save them." Nie Tian's eyes narrowed and he was silent. The divine dragon ambassadors had an extremely high status in the Dragon Clan, second only to the Dragon Emperor. Since they were imprisoned, the security would definitely be tight. Nie Tian and the others were too weak, and it would be as difficult as ascending to heaven to save them. "I can look for Aunt first. She will definitely be able to help us." Zhu Shi's eyes were burning with hope. "Where is your aunt?" Nie Tian's expression changed as he asked. "She's in the ancestral dragon's abyss." Zhu Shi nodded and said, "I grew up in the ancestral dragon's abyss. Aunt is my teacher." "All right, then we'll look for her now." Nie Tian nodded heavily, hoping that Zhu Shi's aunt would be able to help. Without delay, the 3 immediately made preparations and left. Yi Yao disguised Nie Tian and Zhu Shi as black dragon guards, while he continued to be the ancestral dragon warrior that was being escorted. After leaving the underground palace, the 3 immediately headed to the 9 Blades Ice Valley where Zhu Shi's aunt was. Along the way, Zhu Shi introduced his aunt, Zhu Rushuang, to Nie Tian and the others. It turned out that Zhu Rushuang also grew up in the ancestral dragon's abyss and rarely went out, so she knew very little about the outside world. Moreover, according to Zhu Shi, Zhu Rushuang's strength was not inferior to her father, the divine dragon envoy Zhu Rong. On the way, Nie Tian and the others asked the Dragon Clan warriors who were participating in the Emperor Heart sacrificial ceremony and learned that it would begin in 7 days. "I hope the 5 deans and the Angel Clan's powerhouses can make it in time." Nie Tian prayed in his heart, but the worry in his eyes deepened. He knew that Zhu Rushuang and the 3 divine dragon envoys alone were not enough to turn the situation around. In the end, the 5 deans and the angel clan's 4 patriarchs had to take action. After half a day, Zhu Shi pointed to a strange peak that pierced through the clouds and said in surprise, "That peak in front is where the 9 Blades Ice Valley is." Nie Tian nodded slightly and calmed down a little. After a while, they arrived at the peak and prepared to land. However, at that moment Yi Yao's expression changed. He turned to look at Nie Tian and seemed very anxious. Nie Tian frowned and his heart sank. Then, he spread out his divine consciousness and immediately felt 2 terrifying auras appear at an extremely fast speed and shroud them. "It's the hidden dragon thorn," Yi Yao said in a deep voice, his voice clearly trembling. "Oh no!" Nie Tian knew that something was wrong. He restrained his aura and tried to remain calm. He had seen the strength of the hidden dragon clan warriors with his own eyes. Any one of them could kill the 3 of them in an instant. Boom! Boom! In the next instant, before the 3 of them could even react, 2 enormous forces arrived with a bang, and they carried lethal killing intent as they surged towards them. Nie Tian's eyes trembled. He suddenly felt the aura of death approaching. The majestic pressure made him feel despair. Almost all the hidden dragon clan warriors were peak sky martial divine ancestors' powerhouses. How could they resist them? Chapter 4187. High up in the sky, the ice dragon soared into the sky. The world was cold and murderous, and the surrounding space seemed to have come to a standstill, shrouded by endless frost intent. What a powerful aura! Nie Tian felt the piercing chill, and his heart trembled. He raised his head and was shocked to see the woman in white who was like an iceberg. She stood there like an ancient glacier, causing people to feel a chill that seeped into their bones. "Aunt!" At this moment Zhu Shi shouted. He was very surprised, and his eyes shone with a strange light. It turned out that the woman in white who stood on the ice dragon was his aunt, Zhu Rushuang. Zhu Rushuang's clothes were whiter than snow, and the ice dragon breathed out icy air in the air, freezing the void. Boom! Boom! In the void, 2 powerful forces collided with the invisible ice wall, shattering with a loud bang. Then 2 figures in black appeared. They were the Hidden Dragon Sect martial artists. "How dare you attack the Hidden Dragon Thorn?" One of the Hidden Dragon Sect martial artists shouted arrogantly, and at the same time, he approached Nie Tian and the others. "They are people that Lord Dragon Emperor wants. It's best if you don't interfere." The other Hidden Dragon Sect martial artist growled, and his figure turned into a giant golden dragon. Golden light bloomed like the sun, like burning flames. "You're courting death." Zhu Rushuang frowned and said coldly. Then, she took a step forward, and her figure soared into the sky. Icy chi was released from her body, and endless frost intent erupted like a torrent. Boom! Boom! In the next instant, she slammed her palm, and 2 enormous icicles appeared in the void, rolling down. Wherever they passed, the void was forcibly torn apart. Then, a shocking scene happened. The 2 Hidden Dragon Sect martial artists were killed by the icicles before they could even react. Not even their bones were left. The scene made Nie Tian's heart tremble, and his expression froze. Yi Yao's reaction was the same, and he could not believe what he was seeing. Zhu Shi, on the other hand, was very excited and happy. At this time, Zhu Rushuang walked over slowly, and the frost intent in the surrounding void quickly disappeared. "Aunt!" Zhu Shi stepped forward and came to Zhu Rushuang's side, like a child who had found his mother. "Come with me." Zhu Rushuang glanced at him. Although her expression was cold, there was an unconcealable doting look in her eyes. Nie Tian and Yi Yao snapped out of their daze and followed after them. Both of them were cautious and even a little nervous. It was obvious that Zhu Rushuang's strength had exceeded their expectations, and her methods were even more ruthless and decisive. Those were 2 Hidden Dragon Sect martial artists, and yet they were killed by Zhu Rushuang just like that. It was really unexpected. The moment Zhu Rushuang released her aura, Nie Tian had already sensed that her strength was not inferior to Qi Jian's, and might even be slightly stronger. Back then, it had taken Qi Jian a lot of effort to kill the two hidden dragon sect martial artists, but Zhu Rushuang had instantly killed them. From this, it could be seen that Zhu Rushuang was also stronger than Qi Jian. A moment later, Zhu Rushuang led Nie Tian and the others to a small pavilion in the Nine Blades Ice Valley. She calmly sat down and slightly raised her head. Her cold gaze swept past Nie Tian and Yi Yao. Her face was as heavy as water, and she didn't say a word. "Aunt, something big has happened to the Dragon Clan." Without waiting for Nie Tian to speak, Zhu Shi hurriedly said, "Lord Dragon Emperor has been controlled by someone, and grandfather has also been imprisoned. Someone wants to summon the legendary taboo of the Dragon Clan." He was very anxious and wanted to get to the point, but it sounded a little incoherent. Zhu Rushuang's expression was cold as she suddenly looked at Nie Tian and said, "You tell him." "Yes." Nie Tian nodded, then calmly and methodically explained the ins and outs of the matter. However, after listening to him, Zhu Rushuang's expression was still as cold as ice. After a long silence she said, "Don't go out, just stay here." "Stay here?" Nie Tian was taken aback and didn't understand what Zhu Rushuang meant for a moment. "Aunt, don't tell me you." Zhu Shi's expression stiffened as he hesitated. "Don't you want to save grandfather?" "You stay here." Zhu Rushuang looked up at Zhu Shi and didn't say anything. She only responded cold. With that, she stood up and was about to leave. "Auntie!" Zhu Shi immediately became anxious and shouted loudly. Zhu Rushuang's figure paused for a moment, but only for a moment before she continued to leave. Nie Tian frowned, his expression somewhat gloomy. Zhu Rushuang's reaction was beyond his expectations. It seemed that there was some conflict, or even hatred, between Zhu Rushuang and her father, who was Zhu Shi's grandfather. "Aunt, I know you hate grandfather, but he's your father after all." Zhu Shi was completely anxious and shouted, "At this time, the Dragon Clan is in danger of extinction, but you just stand by and do nothing. Aren't you afraid of becoming a sinner of the Dragon Clan?" "Impudent!" Zhu Rushuang's figure paused for a moment and she shouted in a low voice. Suddenly, an invisible force struck Zhu Shi's face and left a glaring bloody mark. Zhu Shi was taken aback at first, clearly not expecting that his aunt who usually doted on him would be so heavy-handed. But the next moment, his expression changed and he cried out, "Aunt, grandfather was indeed wrong in what happened back then, but he did it for your own good. The person you love is, after all, a member of the Angel Clan. Moreover, he's about to become the emperor of the Angel Clan. The two of you are destined not to be together." Nie Tian couldn't help but frown when he heard Zhu Shi's words. "Moreover, grandfather has been trying his best to make it up to you all these years. He's now imprisoned. Are you going to watch him die?" The more Zhu Shi spoke, the more agitated he became. He actually cried out, "If you're such a heartless person, then I don't want you as my aunt." "I'm heartless." Zhu Rushuang abruptly turned around. Her eyes were merciless and even slightly bloodshot as she said coldly, "When he killed Xingguang Etian, he was truly heartless. I knelt on the ground and begged him. I told him that I was pregnant with Xingguang Etian's flesh and blood. But he killed him. In the end. Zhu Rushuang's voice trembled as the redness in her eyes became more obvious. "In the end, he didn't even spare the flesh and blood of me and Xingguang Etian. That's his own grandson. How could he do it?" This. Zhu Shi looked at the almost deranged Zhu Rushuang in front of him and was dumbfounded for a moment, unable to speak. He didn't know much about what happened back then. He originally thought that grandfather Zhu Rong had only killed his aunt Zhu Rushuang's lover. He didn't expect that Zhu Rushuang's child would also die in his hands. Chapter 4188. The Gazebo in the Ice Valley. After a long while, Zhu Rushuang finally calmed down. Her eyes regained their indifference, but there was still a faint redness in them. She looked at Zhu Xi, who was at a loss, and said, "Now you should know who the real heartless person is." Zhu Xi was taken aback. He looked like he had lost his wits and didn't know what to say. He couldn't believe that his usually respected grandfather was a murderous demon who wouldn't even spare his own grandson. "You wait here. What happens outside has nothing to do with you," Zhu Rushuang said coldly, and then directly left the gazebo. With a wave of her hand, an ice seal enveloped the small gazebo. Nie Tian and Yi Yao were stunned and couldn't react for a long time. Everything was too unexpected and out of their control. After a long time, Zhu Xi finally calmed down a little. He looked blankly at Nie Tian and Yi Yao, not knowing what to do next. They had originally come to ask Zhu Rushuang for help, but now, not only did Zhu Rushuang not help them, but she also trapped them here. Is the dragon race doomed? Yi Yao let out a long sigh, his face full of despair. There's always a silver lining at the end of the tunnel. Nie Tian's face darkened. We still have a chance. We can't give it up. There's no chance. The dragon race is doomed. Zhu Xi was already desperate, and his eyes were a little hollow. Nie Tian glanced at him but didn't say anything. The most important thing in front of them now was to get rid of the ice seal. Encouraged by Nie Tian, Yi Yao began to carefully study the seal. Nie Tian watched from the side, not daring to disturb him. About half an hour later, Yi Yao took a deep breath and said to Nie Tian with a helpless expression, "This restrictive spell contains bloodline power. Only someone who shares Zhu Rushuang's bloodline and whose strength is close to Zhu Rushuang's can open it." Nie Tian furrowed his brows, and his expression stiffened. He didn't expect the ice seal left by Zhu Rushuang to be so powerful. Zhu Xi's bloodline was the same as Zhu Rushuang's, but his strength was worlds apart from hers. Is there no other way? After a while, Nie Tian calmed down a little and asked in a deep voice. Yi Yao shook his head, his expression filled with despair. There are definitely no more than 5 people in the entire dragon tribe who are able to break the restriction that Ant left behind. Zhu Xi opened his mouth, but his voice was even more despairing. She trapped us because she didn't want us to see the dragon clan being destroyed. Nie Tian glared at him and shouted, "Fat!" Fat Cat moved and appeared on Nie Tian's shoulder. 9 tails floated behind her fat butt. Unknowingly, he had already grown 9 tails. The fat cat looked at Nie Tian with a gloomy expression and said, "Even if you can break the inhibition formation, so what? If that woman doesn't help, how big of a wave can the few of you make? In any case, let's get out of here first." Nie Tian frowned and said in a deep voice, "Even if there's only a 1 in 10,000 chance, we can't give up." His face was gloomy, but his eyes were shining with a strange light. That kind of determination, that kind of confidence, that kind of never giving up, was moving. Zhu Xi keenly sensed Nie Tian's gaze and couldn't help but tremble. He suddenly understood why he was defeated by Nie Tian. The gap between him and Nie Tian was not only in talent and strength, but also in mentality and willpower. He didn't have Nie Tian's indomitable willpower, which was the biggest reason he lost to Nie Tian. The fat cat looked at Nie Tian and was silent for a long time before saying, "My method is a little risky. Do you really want to do it?" "Yes." Nie Tian nodded heavily without hesitation. "All right." The fat cat sighed. He already knew that Nie Tian wouldn't turn back even if he hit the wall. Then, the fat cat explained his method to Nie Tian. In order to break the ice seal formation, he must first use Zhu Xi's blood to make the restriction formation runes appear, and then lock and activate the restriction formation runes, making the runes active. After that, he must use blood with a stronger bloodline to corrode the restriction formation runes drop by drop, using this method to open a gap in the restriction formation. Let's start. After listening to the fat cat, Nie Tian directly looked at Zhu Xi and said. Zhu Xi's eyes flickered and he nodded heavily. He took a step forward and raised his palm. Blood spurted out from his 5 fingers and sprayed accurately on the area marked by the fat cat. The restriction barrier was stimulated by the blood that was connected to his bloodline, and it quickly revealed itself. Numerous dense and intricate restriction markings appeared, and they surged like wriggling earthworms, looking extremely strange. These runes are so complicated. Nie Tian looked at the restriction formation runes and couldn't help but frown. This area is very small, it's only enough for you to pass through. The fat cat frowned and said, however, there are at least tens of thousands of restriction formation runes in this area. With the strength of your blood, it won't be easy to corrode so many runes. I understand. Nie Tian said lightly and then took a step forward. He forced out blood from his finger and dripped it on the restriction formation runes. At first, when his blood fell on the restriction formation runes, the runes surged even more violently, like little worms that were stimulated. Then, slowly, the aura of some of the runes weakened and finally disappeared. It's effective. Nie Tian felt the changes in the runes and was pleasantly surprised. Then, he quickly forced out the blood in his body, wanting to break the restriction formation as soon as possible. About half an hour later, about half of the restriction formation runes in that area had been corroded, but Nie Tian's face was already as pale as paper, without any color. Nie Tian, take a rest. Yi Yao watched from the side in shock. He even felt that Nie Tian might die from depleting his blood. Just a little bit more, I can't rest. Nie Tian shook his head. The blood that was spurting out from his fingertips became even more violent. Although the restriction formation runes were decreasing, the surrounding runes were also slowly seeping in. If he were to rest now, his previous efforts would probably be in vain. Zhu Shi looked at Nie Tian and felt the latter's terrifying willpower even more deeply. He couldn't even imagine how Nie Tian could maintain his consciousness under such a severe loss of blood. It's through. Half an hour later, Nie Tian suddenly let out a loud cry, as the restrictive spell symbols in the area between him and Nie Tian vanished completely. But after he shouted, his body swayed and he directly fainted. He had lost too much blood and was too weak. He couldn't hold on any longer. Nie Tian. Yi Yao's eyes and hands were sharp. He took a step forward and supported Nie Tian. Then, his figure flashed and he directly drilled out of the gap in the restriction formation. Zhu Shi was similarly quick and followed him out of the gap. Just as the 3 of them walked out of the restriction formation, the gap began to close up and quickly returned to normal. We're finally out. Yi Yao took a deep breath. His face was filled with disbelief. Chapter 4189. 9 Blades Ice Valley, high up in the sky. Zhu Rushuang stood coldly and proudly, releasing cold air all around her, freezing the surrounding space like a furious lotus in the ice. The terrifying chill made the world tremble. Around her, a dozen black-robed cultivators stood solemnly, and a gloomy and oppressive atmosphere filled the entire area. Looking at the scene in the sky, Yi could not help but tremble, horror written all over his face. It was obvious that Zhu Rushuang's killing of the 2 hidden dragon thorn assassins had attracted more assassins. Even though he had seen Zhu Rushuang's strength with his own eyes, Yi Yao could not help but worry at this moment. After all, she was facing a dozen hidden dragon thorns. The hidden dragon thorn was the dragon clan's trump card, and it was not used unless it was absolutely necessary. Therefore, every member of the hidden dragon thorn was a top assassin. When more than a dozen hidden dragon stingers joined forces, just the oppressive killing intent they exuded was enough to make it hard for others to breathe. But Zhu Rushuang did not have the slightest fear. Her pretty face was as cold as ice, and the cold air around her surged like a storm, cutting through the silence of the void. Kill! After a brief silence, the leader of the hidden dragon thorns opened his mouth and spat out the word cold. Then, his figure flickered, turning into a ray of black light, and a sharp aura filled the world. Kill! 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 In an instant, the other hidden dragon thorns also moved, and the sound of battle shook the sky. Yi Yao and Zhu Shi were so shocked by the battle in the sky that their faces were drained of blood. Their faces were filled with shock, and their nerves were stretched taut, as though they were about to explode. If Zhu Rushuang could not block the hidden dragon thorns, they would also die here. Bang! 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 The dozen or so rays of black light bombarded the ice barrier around Zhu Rushuang like blades, but they could not break through the invisible ice wall. Is this the hidden dragon thorn? What an undeserved reputation! Zhu Rushuang let out a low roar as she raised her palm with the force of 1,000 caddies. Cold intent burst forth, and actually turned into shadows of ice dragons that madly attacked in all directions. Bang, bang, bang! The sound of violent collisions rang out in the void, and the dozen or so rays of black light were forcibly repelled. After they returned to human form, they vomited blood and were riddled with wounds. So strong. Yi Yao was shocked. His lips unconsciously became a little dry, and even his voice was trembling. With just a single move, he was able to heavily injure over a dozen hidden dragon stingers. This strength was simply too terrifying. Auntie's strength has already surpassed Grandpa's. Zhu Shi's eyes were also trembling as he said in astonishment. Facing more than 10 hidden dragon thorns at the same time and heavily injuring them with one move, even Zhu Rong, who was the sacred dragon envoy, could not do such a thing. Zhu Shi even felt that the current Zhu Rushuang could already be called the number one of the dragon clan. Leave! The leading hidden dragon assassin steadied his body and shouted in a low voice. His figure moved and he quickly retreated. Leave! The corner of Zhu Rushuang's mouth twitched, and a chill seeped into her bones. Nine Blades Ice Valley is not a place you can come and go as you please. Since you're here, you can all stay here. In the next instant, a boundless cold chi was released, surging out like a huge ripple. The bloodline aura was suddenly released, sealing everything in ice. Before the dozen hidden dragon thorns could react, they were directly turned into ice crystals and dissipated like a mist of blood. This! Yi Yao's pupils suddenly shrank and his mouth was wide open, but he could not say a word. Zhu Rushuang's strength was simply shocking, and her methods were even more ruthless and decisive. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would never have believed that there was such a terrifying person in the dragon clan. Zhu Rushuang stood coldly in the sky, her face as calm as still water, without the slightest ripple. However, at this moment a shocking scene occurred. Puff! In the void, an almost inaudible sound rang out, and Zhu Rushuang instantly sensed something. Her pupils shrank and her expression changed. But unfortunately, it was all too late. Puff! In the next moment, a strange force struck, and before Zhu Rushuang could react, it directly pierced through her chest. A fist-sized bloody hole appeared. Her body suddenly stiffened, and she turned to look behind her. A short man in black stood there, looking at her with a sinister smile. He was staring at her. You are... Zhu Rushuang opened her mouth with difficulty, but blood kept flowing from the corner of her mouth, rendering her unable to speak. The Hidden Dragon King. The short man spoke indifferently, a hint of slyness and playfulness in his eyes. You are the strongest of the Grand Sorcerer Frozen End clan, but unfortunately you met me. The Hidden Dragon King, the ruler of the Hidden Dragon Thorns. He hid in the void, and did not hesitate to sacrifice the lives of a dozen hidden dragon thorns, just to wait for this moment to kill her in one blow. His strength was originally not much different from Zhu Rushuang's, and even someone as strong as Zhu Rushuang could not withstand a fatal blow without warning. He used the lives of his subordinates in exchange for an opportunity to kill her. The Hidden Dragon King was ruthless and ruthless. Puff. Zhu Rushuang's eyes trembled. She wanted to speak, but a mouthful of blood sprayed out, and her body froze before falling straight down. The Hidden Dragon King looked at the body that was falling like a rock. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile as he muttered, "Only by removing the last obstacle can His Majesty the Dragon Emperor's grand plan of hegemony be truly unfolded." and at this moment Zhu Shi shouted and soared into the sky to catch Zhu Rushuang. His figure landed and hugged Zhu Rushuang, but he sensed that the latter's aura was growing weaker and would soon disappear. No. Zhu Shi let out a heart-wrenching howl. To him, Zhu Rushuang was not only his aunt, but also his master and mother. His parents died early when he was young, and his grandfather was busy with clan affairs, so Zhu Rushuang was practically the one who raised him. This relationship surpassed that of a mother and son. Seeing Zhu Rushuang killed with his own eyes, the impact of the pain was as if his bones and soul were being stripped away. Yi Yao came to Zhu Shi's side with Nie Tian, his eyes flashing with a strange light, and he looked a little strange. High up in the sky, the hidden Dragon King's gloomy eyes had long locked onto Yi Yao and Nie Tian. The corners of his mouth curled up and he smiled faintly. The legendary dragon shepherds, the last person of the Night Dragon clan. My trip this time was really not in vain. His eyes were like blades, sizing up Yi Yao and Nie Tian, and he was in no hurry to attack. I'm going to kill you! At this moment, Zhu Shi suddenly roared like a wild beast, and then he wanted to rush over. But Yi Yao stopped him and growled, "She's not dead yet." Zhu Shi's figure froze, and his eyes flickered with excitement. He stared at Yi Yao and said, "Really? Calm down." Yi Yao growled, and then he looked at Nie Tian. The latter actually opened his eyes and woke up. "Let me save her," Nie Tian said with difficulty, and then he struggled to sit up. Yi Yao nodded slightly. With difficulty, Nie Tian squeezed out a drop of blood, which was almost the last drop of blood in his withered body, and dripped it on the wound on Zhu Rushuang's chest. Seeing this, Yi Yao immediately stepped forward, and blood spurted out from his fingertips, like a spring, and flowed on Zhu Rushuang's bloody mouth. Then, a strange scene happened. Chapter 4190. Bloodline Resonance. Zhu Shi couldn't believe it. He felt the power of bloodline resonance in Zhu Rushuang's body. But how was that possible? Zhu Rushuang was a member of the Grand Sorcerer Frozen End clan, Yi Yao was a member of the Night Dragon clan, and Nie Tian wasn't even a member of the Dragon clan. How could three people with different bloodlines trigger bloodline resonance? Zhu Shi couldn't figure it out, and his face was filled with astonishment. Bloodline resonance? High up in the sky, the hidden Dragon King looked at Nie Tian and the others. His eyes narrowed slightly, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. He seemed to be very interested. Interesting. He didn't make a move, obviously wanting to see what would happen next. He also wanted to know why Nie Tian's and Yi Yao's blood would cause bloodline resonance in Zhu Rushuang's body. Stimulated by the bloodline resonance, Zhu Rushuang's originally weak life aura became stronger, and the wound on her chest began to heal quickly. I hope she can wake up. Yi Yao's eyes trembled slightly, and he was very nervous. He just saw that Zhu Rushuang's physique was different from ordinary people. Her heart was not located on the left side of her chest, but on the right side. Because of this, she didn't die immediately after being pierced by the Hidden Dragon King. However, the Hidden Dragon King was too strong. Zhu Rushuang was seriously injured, and the bloody hole in her chest was very big. Although her heart wasn't completely destroyed, it still caused great damage to her heart. As for bloodline resonance, it wasn't real. Yi Yao's draconic aura was very special. Not only could he change the aura of draconic aura, but he could also change some of its internal attribute. Nie Tian was a dragon shepherd, and his blood contained extremely strong draconic aura. Yi Yao had used his own blood to forcibly change the draconic aura and make it close to Zhu Rushuang's frozen end aura, creating a kind of fake bloodline resonant. The draconic aura was already greatly stimulated, and with the fake bloodline resonance, Zhu Rushuang's life energy was stimulated, and her wound began to heal. So it's a fake bloodline resonance. What kind of person was the Hidden Dragon King? He quickly saw through the clues and couldn't help but smile faintly. Nie Tian and Yi Yao ignored him and continued to drip blood on Zhu Rushuang's wound. Just now, Nie Tian had used a lot of blood to corrode the restriction, and his body was shriveled, so it was too much for him to use blood to save people. Use my blood! Zhu Shi bellowed as blood spurted from his fingertips onto Zhu Rushuang's wound. Boom! The next moment, a violent force burst out of Zhu Rushuang's body like a raging beast, galloping like waves. This is a true bloodline resonance. Yi Yao's eyes trembled as he cried out in shock. Immediately, Zhu Rushuang's wound began to heal rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it was as good as new. Rushuang, when the Hidden Dragon King saw this scene, he could not help but frown. His face darkened and he said coldly, "It's time to end this." Boom! In the next moment, he thrust his palm out, sending out a mountainous force that crushed down towards Nie Tian and the others. The next moment, Nie Tian and the other two felt the overwhelming pressure, and their expressions changed drastically. Such a great power was enough to cut mountains and split mountains. The three of them were weak to begin with. Coupled with the depletion of blood energy, they had no way to resist. At the moment of life and death, Zhu Rushuang suddenly opened her eyes. Dragon energy surged from her body, crashing into the surrounding void like a raging wave, causing heaven and earth to tremble. The next moment, she rose from the ground and raised her palm to the sky. Endless frozen end condensed into a huge ice dragon. Roar! The huge dragon soared into the sky and roared. Its huge body was like a 10,000-meter-tall iceberg. It broke through the palm's shadow and pressed toward the Hidden Dragon King. The Hidden Dragon King's eyes trembled and his expression changed. At the same time, he retreated frantically. Boom! Then, he punched out. A black dragon appeared and clashed head-on with the frozen end giant dragon. Bang! The two dragons collided and the void rumbled. Suddenly, the whole world seemed to explode. Terrifying dragon energy scattered in all directions like a flood, threatening to devour everything. Nie Tian's eyes trembled in shock. After Zhu Rushuang woke up, she seemed to be even more powerful than before. The Hidden Dragon King was also terrifying. As the king of assassins, his strength was not inferior to Zhu Rushuang's. High up in the sky, the two dragons, one black and one white, fought fiercely. The sky darkened, and the sun and moon lost their light. After a long time, the two huge figures separated. Their huge bodies were covered in wounds and broken. Zhu Rushuang took a step forward and descended from the sky, landing on top of the frozen end giant dragon. On the other side, the Hidden Dragon King stepped on the black dragon, dark and domineering. Is this the power of the dragon-herding energy? The Hidden Dragon King looked at Zhu Rushuang from afar. He was not afraid. Instead, he looked playful as if he was admiring a work of art. The frozen end wrath is not something you can bear, Zhu Rushuang said in a low voice. Immediately, waves of sharp and majestic dragon energy were released from her body, instantly healing the frozen end dragon's wounds. Moreover, the dragon was even bigger than before. The Hidden Dragon King's eyes twitched a few times as if he was thinking about something. Die! At this moment, Zhu Rushuang took a step forward and soared into the sky. The huge dragon under her feet surged out, and its majestic momentum was enough to shake the heavens as it pounced toward the Hidden Dragon King. Roar! The black dragon under the Hidden Dragon King roared angrily. Its body rolled and rushed over. Boom! Bang bang bang! The two dragons collided again. This time, the difference in strength was clear. The black dragon's body shook and directly collapsed, turning into wisps of black energy that scattered. Then, the frozen end dragon, with its world-destroying dragon might, pressed over violently like a tsunami. Wherever the dragon passed, the Hidden Dragon King was completely submerged. Zhu Rushuang frowned, her pretty face gloomy. She raised her palm slightly, and the frozen end dragon dissipated into dragon energy. The world returned to peace. Only the dragon energy whistled in the void, unable to calm down for a long time. Zhu Rushuang's figure landed, and Zhu Shi and the others immediately rushed over. "Aunt, are you okay?" Zhu Shi asked anxiously. Zhu Rushuang's face was pale, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. She shook her head with difficulty. She was fine, but too weak. "Where's that guy? Is he dead?" Yi Yao frowned and couldn't help but ask. "He escaped." Zhu Rushuang raised her brows slightly. After a long silence, she sighed and said, "It seems that I can't avoid the matter of the Dragon Clan. Aunt, did you agree to save Grandpa?" Zhu Shi's eyes trembled as she cried out with passion. "Saving him is for the Dragon Clan." Zhu Rushuang's eyes were like water as she said in a deep voice. "Yes, yes, yes." Zhu Shi nodded repeatedly, extremely excited. Chapter 4191. Seeing that Nie Tian had fainted, Yi Yao could not help but feel nervous. Zhu Rushuang frowned slightly and stepped forward to sense Nie Tian's aura. She said, "Don't worry too much. He just fainted due to excessive blood loss. His life is not in danger." Yi Yao nodded and was relieved. "And are you okay?" Zhu Shi looked at Zhu Rushuang, who looked pale and ugly. "I'm fine," Zhu Rushuang replied. Zhu Rushuang responded. Then, a strange light flashed in her eyes as she asked, "How did you break the restriction I left behind?" The restriction she left behind could not even be broken by an ordinary sky martial saint ancestor. Nie Tian and the others were so weak that they were almost negligible. How could they break the restriction? Zhu Shi laughed and recounted the process of breaking the restriction. Finally, she looked at Nie Tian and said, "It's all thanks to Nie Tian. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to break the restriction, let alone save you." Dragon Shepherd. Zhu Rushuang's eyes darkened. She looked at Nie Tian again, and seemed to be thinking about something. "Aunt, when are we going to save Grandpa?" Zhu Shi asked excitedly. "I'm injured. I need to recover," Zhu Rushuang said in a deep voice. Her calm face could not hide the turmoil in her heart. Although she told herself that she saved Zhu Rong for the sake of the Dragon Clan, she still could not get over it. Zhu Rong was her father, but he was also the enemy who killed her husband and son. After all these years, she had been very lenient not to kill Zhu Rong. Now that she had to save him, she naturally felt uncomfortable. Next, Zhu Rushuang began to recover from her injuries. At the same time, she arranged for Nie Tian and the others to recover. After the hidden Dragon King retreated, the Nine Blades Ice Valley became peaceful. No enemies came to attack. 3 days later, Zhu Rushuang had almost recovered and was ready to go to save people. Nie Tian, Yi Yao, and Zhu Shi wanted to go with her. Zhu Rushuang looked at Nie Tian and sensed his aura. She couldn't help but frown and ask in surprise, "Your injuries have healed?" 3 days ago, Nie Tian had lost too much blood and fainted. He was in a state where he was on the verge of death. But now, his breathing was steady and he had completely recovered. His aura was even stronger than before. It was too strange. In Zhu Rushuang's opinion, it would take at least several months to recover from such an injury, but it had only taken Nie Tian 3 days, which was truly terrifying. Nie Tian nodded slightly and didn't say anything else. Zhu Rushuang's expression changed slightly, and she paused for a moment before asking, "If I'm not mistaken, you have a power in your body that should be the Angel Clan's angel blood wings, right?" Nie Tian's expression also changed, and then he nodded. He hadn't expected Zhu Rushuang to be able to see through the angel's blood wings. "As expected?" Zhu Rushuang exclaimed in surprise. Then, she seemed to recall something and said, "I once felt the aura of the angel's blood wings on him. I also felt the same aura when you dripped your blood to heal me. I really want to know why you have the power of the angel's blood wings in your body." "Quantity?" Nie Tian frowned. He remembered that Zhu Rushuang's husband was a member of the Angel Clan and had almost become the Angel Emperor, so it wasn't strange that she had felt the angel's blood wings. At this time, Yi Yao and Zhu Shi looked at Nie Tian, clearly also very puzzled. They only knew that Nie Tian was a dragon shepherd, but they didn't expect him to have the power of the angel bloodwings in his body. Yi Yao finally understood why Nie Tian was accompanied by an expert of the angel clan. I have fused with the angel bloodwings. Nie Tian hesitated for a moment, but finally said honestly. What? Yi Yao and Zhu Shi exclaimed at the same time when they heard his words, and their eyes widened. The angel bloodwings were the most sacred item of the angel clan, but Nie Tian had fused with them. Was this possible? What was even more strange was that Nie Tian wasn't even a member of the angel clan. Nie Tian looked at the two of them, but didn't say anything. He didn't want to say too much about the angel bloodwings and his identity as a heaven's limit. Zhu Rushuang's reaction was rather calm. She just stared at Nie Tian for a long time without saying anything. Since you've recovered, let's go together, Zhu Rushuang said a moment later. She had a feeling that Nie Tian was going to play a crucial role in the upcoming battle. Zhu Shi guessed that Zhu Rong and the other two divine dragon envoys were imprisoned in the chasm of the Sin Dragon. The chasm of the Sin Dragon was a natural stronghold in the ancestral dragon abyss, and it was used to imprison people of high status who had committed serious crimes. Half a day later, Zhu Rushuang and the others arrived outside the chasm of the Sin Dragon. Zhu Rushuang looked at the natural chasm in front of her and couldn't help but frown. She had once been imprisoned here as well. Intermarriage was forbidden between the Dragon Clan and the Angel Clan, but she had fallen in love with the #1 genius of the Dragon Clan, Xingguang Yitian. In order to be together with Xingguang Yitian, she didn't hesitate to betray the Dragon Clan. However, it was a pity that their passionate love eventually ended in tragedy under the joint opposition of the Dragon Clan and the Angel Clan. Xingguang Yitian was killed, and she was imprisoned in the chasm of the Sin Dragon. Although she was released from the chasm of the Sin Dragon in the past few hundred years, she could only stay in the ancestral dragon abyss for the rest of her life. Who would have thought that she would return to the chasm of the Sin Dragon to save the person who had personally sent her into the chasm of the Sin Dragon back then? Fate could be really cruel at times. Aunt, what should we do? Zhu Shi looked down at the chasm of the Sin Dragon and asked softly. Zhu Rushuang thought for a moment, then glanced at Zhu Shi and Yi Yao. The two of you stay here. Nie Tian and I will go in to save her. All right. Zhu Shi frowned. He didn't understand why Zhu Rushuang wanted to bring Nie Tian along, but he still nodded obediently. Yi Yao, you must be careful. No matter what happens, don't expose yourself. Nie Tian warned Yi Yao. After all, the latter was too weak. Once he was exposed, his life would be in danger. Don't worry. The Night Dragon Clan's concealment methods are even stronger than the Hidden Dragon Clan's. Yi Yao smiled faintly, his face full of confidence. Follow me closely, Zhu Rushuang said in a low voice. Then, her figure moved, stealthily approaching the chasm of the Sin Dragon. Nie Tian concealed his aura to the extreme and followed closely behind Zhu Rushuang. The two entered the chasm of the Sin Dragon. Nie Tian looked at the cliffs on the left and right. They were actually straight up and down, even more dangerous than the Demon Dragon sky wall. At the same time, Nie Tian sensed that the surrounding space was filled with powerful killing arrays. The killing array inscriptions were like hidden beasts. If they made the slightest mistake, they would instantly go berserk and devour them. Zhu Rushuang was very familiar with the chasm of the Sin Dragon and accurately avoided all the killing arrays. She had been imprisoned here for tens of thousands of years. During that time, she had tried to escape countless times. Although she had failed every time, she had a very thorough understanding of the chasm of the Sin Dragon. Soon, Zhu Rushuang and Nie Tian walked out of the dense killing arrays of the chasm of the Sin Dragon and sank to the bottom of the chasm. Chapter 4192. Nie Tian looked at the dark dragon gate not far away and frowned, asking in a low voice, "Why isn't there anyone guarding it?" The chasm of Sin Dragon was a place where serious criminals of the Dragon Clan were imprisoned, but there was not a single person outside, which made Nie Tian feel very strange. "You'll know when you get closer," Zhu Rushuang replied in a low voice, staring at the gate of the chasm of Sin Dragon. Nie Tian frowned but did not move. He was completely unfamiliar with the chasm of Sin Dragon, so he would not act rashly before Zhu Rushuang took action. Zhu Rushuang glanced at Nie Tian, a hint of appreciation appearing in her eyes. Nie Tian was different from the young martial artists she had seen before. Not only was he talented and strong, but he was also calm and tenacious. If it were an ordinary young man just now, he would have really approached the chasm of Sin Dragon. But Nie Tian did not move at all. This steadiness was what many young martial artists lack. Zhu Shi was already the best of the best among the younger generation of the Dragon Clan, and he might even become the Dragon Emperor in the future. But Zhu Rushuang felt that compared to Nie Tian, Zhu Shi was far inferior. It should be the Dragon Clan's fortune to have someone like him as a dragon shepherd. Zhu Rushuang's mouth twitched slightly as she thought to herself. Watch my footwork and follow me closely. Don't go wrong, Zhu Rushuang said in a low voice after a while, and then she began to slowly approach the gate. Her footwork was very strange, and it contained extremely complicated changes. Clearly, she was using her footwork to avoid something. Nie Tian frowned and carefully observed Zhu Rushuang's footwork, then awkwardly walked like a cat, trying to imitate a tiger. In the beginning, Zhu Rushuang walked very slowly, obviously afraid that Nie Tian would not be able to keep up. Fortunately, Nie Tian's learning ability was very strong, and after a few dozen steps, he slowly began to see the profoundness of the footwork, and his walking became more and more smooth. This place is full of hidden restrictions. The Sin Dragon prison is not simple. At this moment, Fat Cat could not help but exclaim. Restriction? Nie Tian frowned and said in astonishment, Why can't I feel anything? His perception wasn't strong, but it wasn't weak either. With the Evernight Fox's help, he was able to detect the presence of ordinary formations and restrictions. But at this moment, he could not sense any aura at all. It was a little strange. These restrictions are hidden in the void, using some special space-time method to almost completely conceal their auras. The Fat Cat explained, Nie Tian, you have to follow this woman closely. Don't go the wrong way. Nie Tian couldn't help but nod nervously. Then, Zhu Rushuang walked faster and faster, and her footwork became more and more complicated. Nie Tian struggled to keep up, and beads of sweat oozed from his forehead. Nie Tian, she is now using the heaven-changing earth steps, which contains the 36 heavenly spirits and 72 earthly fiends, each of which has 81 variations. Including the changes of yin and yang in the movement of heaven and earth, and the switching of the left and right feet, there are nearly 1,000,000 variations. At this moment, the Fat Cat's voice sounded again. The voice sounded again and said in a deep voice, Quickly activate the demonic eye and watch her footwork. Don't miss anything. And Nie Tian nodded heavily, and then secretly opened the demon eye. Suddenly, the scene in front of him changed. Zhu Rushuang's every step formed a delicate and complicated flowing line in his mind, as if everything in front of him was deconstructed and then reconstructed. The Fat Cat directly accepted these flowing lines and then began to analyze them with a strange array. As Zhu Rushuang walked step by step, the lines became more and more complicated, crisscrossing each other like a tangled mess. At first glance, they seemed to be densely packed, but upon closer inspection, there seemed to be some kind of law contained in them. Then, Nie Tian felt that Zhu Rushuang's footwork was becoming more and more complicated, and even with the demon eye, it was very difficult for him to completely replicate the changes. After a while, Nie Tian felt that his eyes were a little dry, and there was blood oozing from the corners of his eyes. At this moment, Zhu Rushuang's speed also slowed down. Beads of sweat oozed from her forehead, and she looked very flustered. Even though she was using the heaven-changing earth steps, the further she went, the more strenuous it became. Back when she was imprisoned, there were many times when she was almost able to escape. But in the end, she was stopped by the restrictive barrier. It was rumored that the restrictive boundary of the Sin Dragon prison was jointly set up by 9 of the most outstanding boundary masters of the Dragon Clan a long time ago, and no one had ever cracked it. The boundary of the Sin Dragon prison contained countless changes, and it was a boundary that was always in an active state, and would change according to the footwork of a martial artist. In other words, only when the footwork changed more than the boundary could one safely pass through the boundary. It took Zhu Rushuang tens of thousands of years to barely master the heaven-changing earth step. Although she was very close to the changes of the boundary, she always made mistakes in the last few steps. This time, Zhu Rushuang was also taking a risk out of desperation, and was prepared to forcibly break through the boundary in the last few steps. Soon, Zhu Rushuang and Ye Tian came to a place about 5 meters away from the entrance of the Sin Dragon prison, and were only a few steps away from entering. But at this moment, Zhu Rushuang became nervous, and Ye Tian could even hear the obvious sound of breathing behind her. "Senior, are you okay?" Ye Tian couldn't help but frown and ask in a deep voice. "Hide behind me later," Zhu Rushuang responded in a deep voice. Although she was trying to keep calm, one could still hear her nervousness. Ye Tian nodded and took a deep breath to calm himself down. Zhu Rushuang let out a long breath of turbid air, then lifted her left foot, but it swayed for a long time, not daring to land. "Wait a minute." At this moment, Ye Tian suddenly heard Fat Cat's voice, and the latter exclaimed, "Wrong step." Ye Tian's eyes trembled, and he broke out in a cold sweat. "Change your left foot to your right foot, move 5 centimeters forward, heaven-changing earth steps, in style," Fat Cat spoke again, hurriedly shouting. Ye Tian was stunned for a moment. He had no idea what Fat Cat was saying, but he still repeated the latter's words to Zhu Rushuang. When Zhu Rushuang heard Ye Tian's words, her pretty face stiffened, and then her eyes trembled, as if she had understood something. Then, she switched her left and right feet and firmly took a step. Then, Ye Tian explained the next steps precisely. Zhu Rushuang walked out of the ward and stepped into the Sin Dragon prison in the blink of an eye. The two stood inside the dragon gate, looking at the calm space behind them, and could not help but feel a chill in their hearts. If Ye Tian hadn't spoken in time just now, they would have been in trouble. Chapter 4193. Zhu Rushuang looked at Ye Tian in astonishment, not understanding how he could have such a deep understanding of the heaven-changing earth movement. "Someone is helping me in secret," Ye Tian said honestly after a moment of hesitation. Zhu Rushuang frowned, knowing that Ye Tian did not want to say more, so she did not ask any further. She had been wondering how Ye Tian had thought of using his bloodline to corrode the restriction, but now she understood. "Let's go in." Zhu Rushuang did not delay any longer, and stepped into the Sin Dragon prison. The two followed the dark and gloomy passage of the dragon prison, and soon reached the end. No one. Zhu Rushuang could not help but have an ominous feeling when she saw that the surrounding cells were empty. "Let's go." In the next moment, she realized what was going on. With a low shout, she blurred into motion and flew towards the exit of the Dragon Penitentiary with Ye Tian. Unfortunately, she was one step too late. The door of the Draconic Penitentiary slammed shut, and the entire Draconic Penitentiary was as dark as an abyss. The next moment, Zhu Rushuang felt a terrifying oppressive force coming at her, forcing her to retreat despite her strength. She struggled to hold on, releasing the dragon chi in her body to form a shield to protect her and Ye Tian. "We've been tricked." Ye Tian steadied himself, his eyes trembling. Zhu Rushuang's face was gloomy as she constantly released dragon chi to resist the external pressure. "It seems that they had long guessed that we would come here to save people, so they arranged everything in advance," Ye Tian frowned and said in a deep voice. "They have activated the self-destruction of the Sin Dragon prison to make the entire prison perish with us." Zhu Rushuang's eyes were gloomy. Although she tried to remain calm, there was a slight tremble in her voice. We must find a way to get out of here. Nie Tian's eyes trembled as he said heavily. It's useless. Zhu Rushuang said with a cold expression. The Sin Dragon prison was created by a peak boundary master of the Dragon Clan hundreds of years ago. Once it is activated, there is no stopping it. At this time, the Sin Dragon prison is filled with the most powerful boundary power. Even the strongest experts of the all-heaven sacred world cannot break it. The boundary. Fat. Nie Tian frowned and shouted. This barrier is too complicated. I'll need at least several months to break it. However, you only have a few minutes at most. If you can't escape from here in a few minutes, you'll be crushed to death by the spirit formation's power. Fat Cat spoke in a deep voice. It was obvious that she was a bit nervous. The only way now is to break through the barrier, Nie Tian said after a moment of silence. Barge in? Zhu Rushuang's expression changed. She stared at Nie Tian with an extremely strange look in her eyes. It was obvious that Nie Tian wanted her to force her way through the barrier, but her strength was simply insufficient. With the strength of the barrier, even if her experience had increased by several times, she still wouldn't be able to break it. Unless her strength could instantly increase by more than 10 times. But was it possible? The current Zhu Rushuang was no weaker than the top experts of the Dragon Clan. She might even be the top expert of the Dragon Clan. If her strength could increase by 10 times, she would definitely be the top expert of the all-heaven sacred world. Senior, if I use my blood and your strength, is it possible to break this barrier? Nie Tian naturally knew what Zhu Rushuang was thinking. The corner of his mouth twitched inexplicably as he asked. You mean? Zhu Rushuang's eyes trembled. Then, she immediately understood and said, use your blood to stimulate my potential. Yes. Nie Tian nodded heavily. I have the chi of the dragon farmer and the angel's blood wings in my body. I think these two powers will greatly stimulate your potential. If you use these two powers when your strength is at its limit, you will definitely be able to erupt with even greater power. We can give it a try. Zhu Rushuang's eyes were burning with excitement. She had to admit that Nie Tian was a strange genius to be able to think of such a method. Okay. Nie Tian agreed. Then, blood spurted out of his fingertip and circled around Zhu Rushuang like flowing ripples in the void. Zhu Rushuang closed her eyes and felt the bloodline power in the blood around her body. Then, she slowly began to release the frozen end dragon chi. The dragon chi around her did not dissipate, and soon formed a layer of frost around her body like a cocoon. Then, the blood began to melt into the frost, stimulating the frozen end dragon chi to become violent. Nie Tian held his breath and focused, feeling the aura in the frost. He could vaguely hear what seemed to be the roar of thousands of giant dragons. At this time, the surrounding barrier power also became stronger, and the dragon chi barrier was about to collapse. Zhu Rushuang, however, seemed to have entered a certain state and turned a deaf ear to everything around her. Nie Tian was very nervous. His heart was in his throat, but he did not dare to disturb Zhu Rushuang. Bang! At this time, the dragon chi barrier finally could not withstand it and collapsed. Nie Tian felt as if a clap of thunder rang in his ears. Now's the time. Almost at the same time, Zhu Rushuang's closed eyes suddenly opened, and then the frost around her cracked, turning into thousands of ice blades that whistled in all directions. Bang, bang, bang! Suddenly, a terrible muffled sound rang out, and the barrier power was forcibly torn apart, collapsing in the void. What a terrifying power! Nie Tian was shocked when he felt the terrible flow of the aura. He did not expect that Zhu Rushuang could release such a terrifying power after fusing with the power of his bloodline. The power just now was no weaker than that of the Yang God Sword Emperor and the others. Rumble! At the same time, outside of the Sin Dragon prison, a loud rumble resounded through the heavens and earth. The huge mountain collapsed and cracks appeared on the huge wall, as if there was a huge beast rampaging underground. What's going on? In the sky above the Sin Dragon Chasm, several black-clothed martial artists looked shocked. One of the black-clothed martial artists was the Hidden Dragon King who had escaped from Zhu Rushuang not long ago. The other martial artists were also people of high status in the Dragon Clan, and they were the clan leaders of the various branch clans. Could it be that Zhu Rushuang has broken out of the Sin Dragon prison? One of the black-clothed martial artists was a little shocked, and his eyes were uncertain. Impossible! The barrier in the Sin Dragon prison cannot be broken even by that guy who claims to be the number one in all heavens. No matter how strong Zhu Rushuang is, she can't break the barrier. Another person responded solemnly. Although he spoke firmly, there was clearly some uncertainty in his eyes. The Hidden Dragon King's eyes were gloomy, as if he was thinking about something. Of course, he knew that Zhu Rushuang's strength was not enough to break the barrier of the Sin Dragon prison. However, if Zhu Rushuang and Nie Tian joined forces, it would be a different story. Chapter 4194. How is this possible? When the dragon experts saw that the two people in the air were Zhu Rushuang and Nie Tian, their expressions froze and then they exclaimed in unison. They never dreamed that Zhu Rushuang and Yi Qingyu could break through the boundary of the Sin Dragon prison. From the looks of it, Zhu Rushuang had clearly broken through the boundary by force, but was her strength really that terrifying? They really escaped. The Hidden Dragon King looked at Zhu Rushuang and Nie Tian. Although he had expected it, he was still very shocked, and his eyes revealed a cold, killing intent. Where are the three divine dragon ambassadors? Zhu Rushuang stood coldly in the sky and took a step forward. Her aura was released like a raging wave, and the moment the cold air spread, the surrounding world was frozen. Ice descends upon the world, swallows the mountains and rivers. Zhu Rushuang, I have underestimated you. The corner of the Hidden Dragon King's eyes twitched, but he did not panic. He sneered. You broke through the boundary by force. Even with the help of the dragon shepherds, you must have been seriously injured. Do you still have the ability to fight me? I can kill you as easily as turning my hand over, Zhu Rushuang said in a low voice with unparalleled domineeringness. Then, she flipped her palm, and an ice spear appeared in her hand. Suddenly, endless cold air surged, like a strange stream of water, as if it was going to swallow the world. The Hidden Dragon King's eyes trembled slightly. He actually felt a bone-chilling aura, as if a pair of eyes of death had locked onto him. What a terrifying aura! Nie Tian had already retreated tens of thousands of meters away. Looking at Zhu Rushuang from afar, he could clearly feel the cold and domineering aura that could freeze the world. He didn't even know that Zhu Rushuang was a spear user. The spear in Zhu Rushuang's hand was very evil, as if it was made of ice. It was crystal clear and extremely sharp, giving off an unreal feeling. This is the Grand Sorcerer Divine Ice of the Grand Sorcerer Frozen End Clan. The Hidden Dragon King looked at the ice spear and could not help but tremble. He exclaimed, unable to conceal the fear on his face. The Grand Voodoo Divine Ice was rumored to be a spear that could destroy the heavens. It was forged by the ancestor of the Grand Voodoo Frozen End Clan during the Primordial Era by gathering the ice heart flame from the ancient glaciers and fusing it with the innate power of the Grand Voodoo. It possessed the power to destroy the heavens and the earth and sweep away everything in its path. Ever since the Great Voodoo Divine Ice was created, it had existed as the clan's holy artifact, and only the patriarch of the Great Voodoo Frozen End Clan could possess it. In this generation, Zhu Rong was the chief of the Grand Voodoo Ice tribe, not Zhu Rushuang. Why was the Grand Voodoo Divine Ice in Zhu Rushuang's hands? But now was clearly not the time to think about this problem. Zhu Rushuang, who had the support of the Divine Magus Ice, could more than double her battle strength, and could really kill him in one move. Retreat! The Hidden Dragon King's eyes trembled slightly, and a thought appeared in his mind. Then, his figure retreated slightly, preparing to leave. Supreme Magus Divine Ice? At this time, a reckless fellow stepped forward and sneered, "Let me see how strong the Grand Voodoo Frozen End Clan's holy artifact is." Before he finished speaking, he took a step forward and soared into the sky, turning into a giant crimson dragon in the void. With a roar, a terrifying dragon claw descended and pressed down on Zhu Rushuang. "You're courting death," Zhu Rushuang sneered. The supreme Magus divine ice soared through the sky and exploded with extreme power. Suddenly, a series of terrifying ice spear shadows appeared in the air and bombarded the giant crimson dragon. In the next moment, the sound of flesh and bone being torn could be heard in the void. The giant crimson dragon was directly broken into several pieces under the impact of the spear shadows, and blood sprayed into the air. It was extremely bloody. Under the power of the supreme Magus divine ice, this person in dragon form could not even block a single spear. The others were shocked, completely stunned by the scene in front of them. They all gasped and were speechless. At this time, there was only one thought in their minds, and that was to escape. In an instant, the figures of the few people retreated frantically. But unfortunately, it was already too late. They suddenly felt that the void was filled with a terrifying cold energy that imprisoned the space, making it difficult for them to move even an inch. "Die." Zhu Rushuang's eyes were murderous as she spoke in a cold voice. The spear fell, and amidst several rays of blood, the few cultivators died tragically on the spot. Only one person was left behind, but he was so frightened that his tongue trembled and he could not speak. Zhu Rushuang moved to the person's side and asked in a cold voice, "Where are the divine dragon envoys?" The hidden dragon king had escaped, and she had left this person alive because she wanted to know where the 3 divine dragon envoys were imprisoned. I don't know." The person's eyes were trembling, and he felt his entire body go limp. He could not stand any longer. "You don't know? Then there's no value in you living." Zhu Rushuang's face was stern as she spoke in a cold voice. Then, the cold energy in her body exploded, and the person felt that his meridians and bones were about to be frozen. He gasped and said in a trembling voice, They're imprisoned in the smelting dragon mouth." "Smelting dragon mouth?" Zhu Rushuang frowned and murmured, "So it's that place." The person looked up at Zhu Rushuang with difficulty and begged, "I told you, please spare me. If you tell me, then there's even less value in you living." Zhu Rushuang smiled coldly. Then, with a thought, the person turned into a ball of ice and fell to the ground, shattering when he hit the ground. "Senior." Seeing that Zhu Rushuang had finished dealing with these people, Nie Tian's figure flashed and he flew over, but when he saw blood at the corner of Zhu Rushuang's mouth, he could not help but ask worriedly, "Are you all right?" "I was a little injured when I broke through the boundary just now, but I'm fine," Zhu Rushuang said with a faint smile as the blood at the corner of her mouth disappeared. Nie Tian frowned. He could sense that Zhu Rushuang's aura was a little chaotic, which made him even more worried. It was obvious that Zhu Rushuang had been seriously injured when she fused with his bloodline power to break through the boundary, and the divine Magus Ice just now had aggravated her injuries. Although the divine Magus Ice was the holy artifact of the Grand Sorcerer Frozen End Clan, no one had ever been able to fully display its power. The power contained in the divine Magus Ice was too strong, and when a martial practitioner used it, it would put great pressure on their martial body. Even someone as strong as Zhu Rushuang would find it difficult to control the divine Magus Ice. Nie Tian looked at Zhu Rushuang and said in a deep voice, "Senior, why don't you recuperate and recover first? There's no time." Zhu Rushuang's eyes trembled. "If we're late, I'm afraid we won't be able to see the 3 divine dragon envoys." Chapter 4195. Bloodline Stripping. Nie Tian exclaimed in surprise after hearing Zhu Rushuang's words. He immediately thought of the Emperor Heart ritual when he heard the word bloodline. Previously, he had seen a huge pool of ancestral dragon blood underground. The pool was connected to the Emperor's heart sacrificial ceremony and was obviously prepared for the Emperor's heart ceremony. The fact that the 3 sacred dragon envoys were brought to the smelting dragon mouth and stripped of their bloodline power was obviously related to the Emperor Heart ritual. Senior, is the bloodline of the sacred dragon envoys different from that of other dragon race martial practitioners? Nie Tian became cold and asked Zhu Rushuang. The sacred dragon envoys have always been produced by the 4 ancestral dragon clans. They are the top experts among the ancestral dragon martial practitioners, and after becoming sacred dragon envoys, they can merge with the ancestral dragon brilliance left by the previous sacred dragon envoy and possess a stronger bloodline power, Zhu Rushuang said with a slight frown. Then the 3 sacred dragon envoys can be said to be the strongest ancestral dragon martial practitioners, right? Nie Tian's eyes trembled slightly as he asked seriously. Yes. Zhu Rushuang nodded heavily. The dragon race originally had 4 sacred dragon envoys, and they chose the strongest among the 4 ancestral dragons. However, the 7 fiend abyssal dragon clan is almost extinct, so there are only the Candle Dragon clan, the Winged Dragon clan, and the Grand Shaman Ice End clan left. The 3 sacred dragon envoys are the strongest of the 3 clans. After saying that, Zhu Rushuang suddenly sighed and said, although the 4 ancestral dragons are far stronger than ordinary dragons, their great power also makes their martial bodies different from ordinary people's. They have to withstand stronger bloodline pressure, so the lifespan of ancestral dragon warriors is not long. The current ancestral dragon martial practitioners are becoming fewer and fewer. I'm afraid the dragon race will have no sacred dragon envoys in a few generations. Nie Tian frowned and remained silent for a while, not saying a word. Let's go. Zhu Rushuang's complexion improved slightly after a while. Without further delay, she prepared to head to the smelting dragon mouth. They first looked for Yi Yao and Zhu Xi, and then Nie Tian allowed the 2 of them to enter the 9 extremities, before heading straight for the smelting dragon mouth. Soon, Zhu Rushuang and Nie Tian arrived above the refining dragon valley. Looking down, they could see a dragon-shaped valley. It was the refining dragon mouth. Bloodline restriction. Nie Tian looked down at the valley and immediately felt a monstrous force rushing towards him, causing him to frown and his expression to turn ugly. He sensed that the entire valley was enveloped by a powerful bloodline restriction, like an invisible barrier that blocked everything. Nie Tian, I need your blood. Zhu Rushuang looked at the refining dragon valley in silence for a moment before saying in a deep voice. It was obvious that she wanted to forcefully break through the dragon refining valley's bloodline restriction. Nie Tian frowned. He could sense that the bloodline restriction of the dragon refining valley was not any weaker than the barrier of the Sin Dragon prison. Zhu Rushuang was already injured, so how could she withstand the bloodline impact? The dragon race has betrayed me, and I will not betray the dragon race. Zhu Rushuang could tell what Nie Tian was thinking, and said in a deep voice, her eyes filled with extreme determination. Nie Tian frowned. He could sense that Zhu Rushuang seemed to have made up her mind. Her indifference clearly carried some sort of detachment. Come. Zhu Rushuang said indifferently. The divine Magus ice appeared in her hand again, and her aura erupted in an instant. The cold power was like a raging wave that seemed to drown everything. Nie Tian's face darkened. Without hesitation, the power in his body surged, and blood spurted from his 10 fingers, turning into a blood mist that spread all over Zhu Rushuang's body. Boom! Stimulated by Nie Tian's blood qi, Zhu Rushuang's aura surged wildly, impacting the surrounding void. The entire world seemed to be collapsing. Nie Tian's figure moved and retreated tens of thousands of meters away, watching the scene in front of him in shock. Bolstered by the blood qi of the dragon shepherd and the divine Magus ice, Zhu Rushuang's aura soared into the sky, surpassing that of the Yang God Sword Emperor and the others. But in this state, Zhu Rushuang was under immense pressure. The blood qi in her body burned wildly, completely at the cost of her life. Frozen end, heaven murder. The next moment, Zhu Rushuang said in a deep voice. She swung her spear, and a terrifying spear shadow appeared where the tip of the spear pointed, carrying the power to destroy the world, bombarding the dragon refining valley below. Boom! The spear shadow descended like a dragon, and a terrifying explosion erupted between heaven and earth. Under the rebound of the restriction, the endless spear intent bloomed with black splendor, turning into a raging wave that engulfed everything. Boom, 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 chi, 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 heaven and earth rumbled and exploded, and the terrifying sound was endless, as if the end of the world had come. Nie Tian was hit by the aftermath and kept retreating. After a long time, the world returned to peace. Zhu Rushuang stood coldly in the sky like a cold spear, exuding a chilling aura. Nie Tian looked down and could not help but tremble. The bloodline restriction outside the dragon refining valley had disappeared. The power of Zhu Rushuang's spear was enough to destroy heaven and earth, directly shattering the bloodline restriction. But at this moment, Zhu Rushuang's body trembled, and she actually could not stand steadily. Senior. Seeing this, Nie Tian moved swiftly to Zhu Rushuang's side and supported her. Zhu Rushuang was under the double pressure of the bloodline impact and the divine Magus ice, and her martial body was already injured to begin with, so she was now severely injured. Pfft! Her body trembled violently, and she spat out a mouthful of dirty blood, her black face turning pale. Oh no! Nie Tian sensed Zhu Rushuang's body and noticed that the latter's bloodline was restless and her blood flow was speeding up, a clear sign that she had lost control of her martial body. I'm fine. Zhu Rushuang took a deep breath, endured the pain, and said, "Let's enter the dragon refining valley quickly." Nie Tian agreed, and then landed in the dragon refining valley with Zhu Rushuang. They followed the valley and soon arrived at the end. The scene that greeted them stunned them. In midair, 3 bloodied figures were bound by a huge metal chain, their shoulder blades pierced through, and they were on the verge of death. The metal chain was engraved with dense, strange dragon-shaped runes that constantly absorbed the bloodline power of the 3 people. Nie Tian looked down the chain, and at the end of it was a huge black rock that was surging with streams of crimson power, making it look like burning flames. Beside the black stone, 3 black-robed cultivators stood, looking at Nie Tian and Zhu Rushuang in a daze. They actually did not notice that someone had broken through the bloodline restriction of the dragon refining valley. The bloodline restriction of the dragon refining valley isolated everything from the outside world, so it was normal that they did not notice. You are. After being stunned for a few seconds, one of the black-robed cultivators reacted and spoke in shock. But before he could finish, his body stiffened and he was sealed in ice. Chapter 4196. Zhu Rushuang raised her head to look at the sky. Where her gaze fell, she saw 3 bloodied figures shackled by the smelting dragon chains, barely breathing. These 3 figures were the current 3 divine dragon envoys of the dragon clan. Zhu Rushuang's face was somber and brimming with suppressed anger. With a wave of the spear in her hand, the smelting dragon chains were forcibly broken. Seeing this, Nie Tian's figure moved, the astral soul wings on his back spreading out to catch the 3 divine dragon envoys. Very carefully, he allowed the 3 divine dragon envoys to land steadily on the ground. Puff! But at this moment, Zhu Rushuang's body trembled, and she vomited another mouthful of blood. "Senior, are you all right?" Nie Tian frowned and asked anxiously. Zhu Rushuang did not speak and only shook her head. Her face was pale and gaunt, and her entire person was like a withered leaf in the wind, as if she would wither the next moment. Nie Tian's face was solemn. He could sense that the bloodline power in Zhu Rushuang's body was already beginning to collapse, and if this situation continued, she would not last much longer. Then, he looked at the 3 divine dragon envoys and sized them up. They were 3 weathered old men. Their hair and beards were all white, like rotten wood in the wind, and one could even smell the scent of decay from them. They were the 3 divine dragon envoys. Supreme Witch Divine Dragon Envoy Zhu Rong, 9 Yin Divine Dragon Envoy Zhu Wu, and 5 Yang Divine Dragon Envoy Ing Qiongwu. The status of the Divine Dragon Envoys in the Dragon Clan was second only to the Dragon Emperor, and could be said to be second only to the Dragon Emperor. But now they were in such a sorry state, without the slightest dignity to speak of. Nie Tian's face darkened even more as he looked at the 3. He had originally hoped that the 3 divine dragon envoys could help turn the situation around, but now it seemed impossible. The 3 divine dragon envoys had almost all their bloodline drained. Let alone fighting, whether they could survive was a problem. Zhu Rushuang looked at the 3, her eyes trembling slightly, and finally fell on a tall old man. It was her father, Supreme Witch Divine Dragon Envoy Zhu Rong. Her father was also the enemy who had killed her husband and son. You still came. Zhu Rong raised his head to look at Zhu Rushuang, his eyes filled with vicissitudes of life and tears. He spoke with great difficulty, but there was clearly a hint of a gratified smile on his lips. After he was imprisoned, the first person he thought of who could save him was Zhu Rushuang. Therefore, he had been waiting and waiting. Finally, it had come. What he was waiting for was not to be saved, but for a chance to reconcile with his daughter. "I'm doing this for the Dragon Clan, not for you," Zhu Rushuang said coldly. Her expression was cold, but when she saw her old father being tortured to this state, her eyes clearly trembled a little. She didn't expect that when she saw the person she hated the most in her life, her heart would be moved like this. "Shuang you're still the same, you haven't changed at all." Zhu Rong laughed, kind and calm. Ever since she was a child, Zhu Rushuang had always been very independent and had never let her father down. "Don't call my name." Zhu Rushuang, however, suddenly lost control. Her eyes were bloodshot as she roared, "You don't deserve it." A long period of suppression, a long period of hatred, a long period of patience, finally erupted at this moment. Nie Tian was taken aback. He didn't expect Zhu Rushuang's reaction to be so strong. The other 2 divine dragon envoys, Zhu Wu and Ing Qiongwu, also froze and looked at Zhu Rushuang in shock. Zhu Rong's reaction was very calm. He looked at Zhu Rushuang with a dark expression and said, "I know you hate me, and you have reason to hate me. But I don't regret what I did. If I were given another chance, I would still do the same." "Why?" Zhu Rushuang roared as if she had gone mad. "Because I am the chief of the Frozen End race, because I am a member of the Dragon Clan," Zhu Rong said solemnly, but his resolute face couldn't conceal a kind of heart-wrenching sorrow. There was an ancient agreement between the Angel Clan and the Dragon Clan. Intermarriage was forbidden between the 2 races, and anyone who broke the agreement would be killed by both races. Back then, Zhu Rushuang and Xingguang Etian had violated the agreement and gotten together in private, which was a great taboo. The 2 races were so angry that they had to be killed. Left with no other choice, Zhu Rong had personally killed Xingguang Etian under great pressure, resulting in the blood feud between father and daughter today. If Zhu Rong hadn't killed Xingguang Etian back then, the Grand Shaman Frozen End race wouldn't exist today. Zhu Rong knew he had done wrong that day, but he had to do it. He had no choice. "You could have killed Xingguang Etian, but why did you kill our child?" Zhu Rushuang's eyes were bloodshot and murderous as she roared like a wild beast. If Zhu Rong had no choice but to kill Xingguang Etian back then, why did he kill that child? That was his own grandson, his own flesh and blood. Why couldn't he let him go? Zhu Rong was silent for a long time. Turbid tears slowly flowed out of his eyes. His deep eyes seemed to be hiding the deepest secret. That child had the bloodline of both the Angel Clan and the Dragon Clan. He was the real taboo and must not be allowed to live. But Zhu Rong had never mentioned this to Zhu Rushuang. There were some things he chose to bear alone. "Have you nothing to say?" Zhu Rushuang growled again when she saw Zhu Rong's silence, her bloodshot eyes surging with cold, killing intent. but in the next moment, her face changed and she vomited a mouthful of blood. Her body swayed and she collapsed. Shuang-er! Zhu Rong's eyes trembled as he exclaimed. He took a step forward and extended his palm. A mysterious power surged out and enveloped Zhu Rushuang's body. Her face changed and she froze on the spot. Senior! At the same time, Nie Tian also went forward. Sensing Zhu Rushuang's aura, his heart trembled and he couldn't speak. Zhu Rushuang's aura was in a mess and rapidly weakened. Her bloodline was also starting to collapse. She was clearly on the verge of death. Zhu Wu and Ying Qiongwu went forward and asked nervously, "Brother Zhu, what's wrong with her? Her bloodline is collapsing." Zhu Rong came to a realization and said grimly. This. Zhu Wu and Ying Qiongwu were dumbfounded. The collapse of one's bloodline could lead to cultivation deviation or death on the spot. But the collapse of one's bloodline would only occur after one's bloodline suffered a huge impact. Zhu Rushuang was already a pinnacle expert, so how could she make such a low-level mistake and let her bloodline suffer such a huge impact? Zhu Rong quickly calmed down and said grimly, she must have forcefully stimulated her bloodline in order to break the bloodline restriction of the Dragon Refining Valley. That's why she ended up like this.